Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Betrayed by Girls and Joined the Familiar of Zero World Part 2. Before we start, please go support issei-senyu for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Chapter 20, Request. We see the three who had just arrived at the castle to which they were called by the princess. At that point, the knight who was escorting them told them to wait, since they were going to see the princess so she could talk to them. After a while, the knight reappeared to tell them that she would accompany him. When they were about to enter through the door, the guard stopped Rasweiss, hesitating that she enter with the others. Guard, wait, you can't enter. Rasweiss, why can't I get in? Guard, I'm sorry, but only those I call the princess can enter. Rasweiss, but I'm accompanying them. Guard, sorry, you'll have to wait here. At that moment, Issei realizes that they are stopping Rasweiss and goes to where she is to see what is happening. Issei, what's happening? Why can't you get in? Guard was no longer called by the princess. Issei, she's accompanying me. Guard, you'll still have to wait here then. Louise also approaches with the knight. Louise, what's going on, Issei? Issei, they don't want to let Rasweiss pass. Louise, so what will we do? Knight, let her pass. Guard, but General, we must not let anyone pass who has not been called. Knight, it doesn't matter, let her pass, it's an order. Guard, yes, ma'am. Then they set off again to where the princess was. After a while walking, they arrive at the throne room where the princess was, where the knight left them alone. Princess, thank you, Issei, for coming. Issei, you're welcome, but what do you need me for, princess? Princess, I need to ask you for a favor, Issei. Issei, what is the favor that princess needs? Princess, according to my research department, and Director Osmond, and what Louise told me in this war, the only one who could defeat the Albion army was you, and since then I know that you and Louise are bearers of the void, since you showed that you have a unique power like Gandalf, which is why Louise must also have the power of the void. In addition, those marks that you have on your hand are the same as those that Gandalf had. Issei, you're right, princess. Princess, that power, is it possible for you to help me by lending me that power? The kingdom is immersed in struggles and wars. At that, the princess gets up from where she was sitting and approaches Issei. After a few seconds, she reaches where he is and takes his hands, looking directly into his eyes. Princess, the army doesn't want to miss this opportunity. We'll launch an attack on Albion. The dignitaries under Masari seem to be in agreement with this, as does the army. But I want to avoid any future wars. Issei. Issei, yes. At that, the princess takes the hand with Gandalf's marks and raises it a little. Princess, is this the mark of Gandalf? Issei, yes. Princess, please use this power, along with Louise, and help me. Issei, well, Louise will do anything for you and I will always protect Louise. Princess, I'm asking this favor directly from you, Issei. I don't have many close friends, so please become one. Issei, what do you mean, princess? At that, the princess lets go of his hands and looks down sadly. Princess, your majesty, or whatever the title is, only steals your freedom. Only very few are able to understand my feelings and are able to help me. Please do me this favor, Issei. Issei, yes. The princess, upon hearing Issei's answer, is happy and looks at him with a smile. Princess, thank God, thank you very much. Issei, don't worry, princess, I will help you in any way I can. Princess, thank you. But you'll have to stay at the Magic Academy with Louise. I wish to keep my relationship with you a secret, since the enemies will also be present in the palace. Issei, do you mean spies? Princess, recently the previous Griffin Knight was killed inside the royal dungeon. The lock of the cell was made of high-level magic. It had to be someone within the palace who knew how to break the spell that brought the criminal to his end. Issei, how could something like that happen? Princess, Issei, as a token of appreciation, if there is anything you need, whatever it is, please let me know. Issei, whatever? Princess, yes. Whatever. As long as it's within my possibilities. The girls, upon hearing this, became alert, especially Rasweiss, who thought that Issei would ask the princess for something perverted. Issei, thank you, Princess, but for now I don't need anything. Princess, I see, thank you for agreeing to help me. Issei, don't worry, but I think it's time for us to go. Princess, you're right, goodbye and thank you very much. The three goodbye. At that Rosweiss, Louise and Issei begin to leave for the academy, leaving the princess alone, who watched as they left, especially Issei. After a while, the boys returned to the academy while they were talking until Issei notices something that Louise was bringing. Issei, Louise, what is that? Louise, I think it's the wish book that was passed down from the ancestors. The princess gave it to me. She said it would be best if I had it. I heard that this book was kept in the Trine Kingdom for several generations. At that moment, Issei notices some blank pages in the book. Issei, what is this? Louise, according to Director Osmond, the deeds of the magic void should be written here. Issei, but there's nothing? Louise, I don't know what happened. Issei, changing the subject Rosweiss, there is something I would like to ask you. Rosweiss, what is Issei? Issei, I was wondering if you could help Louise with magic. Rosweiss, no problem, Issei. Issei, thank you, Rosweiss. I don't know how to thank you. Rosweiss, don't worry, Issei, I'll think of something. After the trip, it is already night, and they finally arrive at the academy after everyone got off the carriage that brought them. The knight approaches them to talk to them. Knight, well, Miss Valier, from now on, any order from His Majesty will be brought by the armed troops. Both of you will be known as Zero without objection, right? Louise, yes. After that they say goodbye and the knight leaves in the carriage. The three go to their room to sleep. Time skip to the next morning. We can see how the knight from the previous day was rushing back to the academy. After arriving there, she gets off the carriage and runs to Issei's room. When she arrives there, she opens the door in a hurry. Gentlemen, Miss Valier. But after entering, she noticed that she was asleep on Issei's right side and Rosweiss was asleep on his left side. Seeing this, she blushed and quickly closed the door, then started knocking on it to wake her up. Issei, sad face, half asleep, what's going on? Knight, Issei is in extreme urgency. The princess has been kidnapped by an unknown person. Upon hearing this, the three of them quickly get up in shock and begin to get dressed. Castle/night time. We can see the princess take out a wooden box and then open it to take out its contents, which was the Tristan water ruby ring. She takes it and begins to remember. Flashback starts. We can see two young people in the moonlight next to a lake. The two are talking very close to each other. Unknown, Henrietta. Henrietta, Wales. Wales, the royal wind ruby of Albion. Henrietta, and the royal water ruby of Tristan. Wales, when wind and water come together, a rainbow is born that crosses our realms. Henrietta, the forbidden love between us someday will be in that beautiful rainbow. Flashback ends. Princess Wales. Flashback starts. We can see the same young people walking hand in hand around the lake in which the stars were reflected. Henrietta, Wales, the spirits of Lake Lagdorian are called those spirits. When someone makes an oath under the spirits, they cannot break it. Wales, it's just a superstition, Henrietta. Henrietta, I believe in that. Then they continue walking until they stop at a place in the lake. The princess takes off her shoes and gets into it slowly while she joins her hands at the height of her chest and sticks them to it, and walks with her eyes closed while she says, Henrietta, I, the princess of Tristan, Henrietta, solemnly swear under the eyes of the water spirits that I will love Wales forever. Wales, Henrietta? At that the princess turns around to where Wales is. Henrietta, now please swear your eternal love. At that, Prince Wales also takes off his shoes and approaches the lake. He breathes deeply and gets into the lake. Then he says, looking at Henrietta, Wales, I, the Prince of Albion, Wales, solemnly swear under the eyes of the water spirits that one day, I, with the princess of Tristan, Henrietta, on Lake Lagdorian, under the rays of the sun, will walk hand in hand and ignore everyone and everything. Flashback ends. We see how the princess put on the ring and begins to caress it. Henrietta, Wales? At that, some tears begin to fall from her face. Henrietta, the fact that you're dead, I still can't believe it. In a world without you, how can I continue living? The combination of water and wind is how rainbows form in the sky. At that moment, the ring begins to shine brightly, which causes the princess to stop talking and start looking at it. Henrietta, this is unknown, Henrietta. Henrietta, who's there? Let me see you. How dare you enter a queen's room without announcing yourself? I'm going to scream. Unknown, it's me, Henrietta, I'm Wales. Henrietta, Wales? Wales, open the window, my beloved Henrietta. At that moment, the princess starts to look towards the window and sees something appear on the other side of it. Henrietta, Wales? It's a lie, why? Aren't you dead? Wales, I'm not dead yet, I'm alive. The one who died was a decoy. Henrietta, it can't be in any way. Wales, so let me show you proof of who I am. At that, the person raises his hand showing a ring with a purple glow coming out of it, which causes the princess's ring to shine as well. Wales, the wind blows in the dark nights. Henrietta, the oath of water. Then the princess runs and opens the window, and then quickly goes to Wales and hugs him. Henrietta, Wales, you're still alive, Wales, you're still alive. Wales, I'm here for you, Henrietta, I want you to come with me. Henrietta, together? Wales, to Albion. Henrietta, you can't go, if you come back, you'll die this time. Wales, even so I have to go, this is the duty of a prince. Henrietta, please don't do this, stay here, stay in this kingdom with me. Then Wales kisses Henrietta. Wales, I love you, Henrietta, so come with me. Then they kiss again while Henrietta shed a few tears. Returning to the academy with Issei and the others. Louise, what do you mean Princess Henrietta has been kidnapped? Knight, this is my fault. Louise, and what about the princess? Sir, at this moment my subordinates are searching for her. The kidnapped person is currently escaping towards Lake Lagdorian. Issei, Lake Lagdorian. Knight, in any case, we must keep this matter secret. Only the Gunpowder Squadron and you two will save His Majesty. Can you help us? Louise, of course the princess is in danger. How can I ignore it? Time jump now, they are outside the academy at the entrance. Gentlemen, then I leave it in your hands. After this the knight rides off on horseback. Issei, well, there's no time to waste, let's go. Louise, you're right, but how will we get there? Issei, balance break. At that Issei makes his armor appear and unfolds his wings. Issei, let's go. At that Louise climbs onto Issei's back while he was carrying Rosweiss. Issei, ready, hold on. Girls, yes? At that, Issei flies away quickly, leaving behind the academy and two people who were watching them, which were Tabitha and Kerchi. Kerchi, what's happening? Why are they leaving? Tabitha, a mission. Kerchi, mission? Meanwhile, returning with Issei and the girls. Issei, wink with a frown thinking, they kidnapped the princess, who could it be? Drake, I don't know but remember what he told you. Flashback starts. Princess, thank you? But you'll have to stay at the Magic Academy with Louise. I wish to keep my relationship with you a secret, since the enemies will also be present in the palace. Issei, do you mean spies? Flashback ends. Issei, you're right, Drake. Louise, what do you think, Issei? Issei, about what the princess told us, and that he could have been a spy. Rosweiss, you're right, it could be a possibility. Louise, I heard about that too when the Andervo ring was taken. Issei, what? We promised the water spirit that we would return it. Louise, if before that we left him at the palace. Issei, and Momo also said that he has the ability to revive the dead, but how do you use that? Louise, that's why they said you can only control it if you have the dead person. Issei, what is it for? Louise, I don't know, but we should hurry up and find her. Issei, I know, but I can't fly faster with you guys on top of me. Rosweiss, what are you talking about? Do we weigh too much? Issei, scared, it's not that I don't know if they can handle more speed without something happening to them. Rosweiss, I see. Louise, sad face thinking, Princess, will you be okay? Flashback starts. We can see some clothes thrown on the shore of a lake at night, while in the lake we can see a young woman with purple hair taking a bath in the moonlight. At that moment, the young woman turns around because she notices that there is someone behind her. Young man, who's there? After that, the young woman leaves the lake and gets dressed. Unknown, sorry for scaring you. Under the moonlight, I wanted to scream looking for the water spirit. Young, it can't be. At that, the young man takes her by the chin and lifts her face. Young man, you have become more beautiful, Henrietta. You are more beautiful than the water spirit. Henrietta wails. Flashback ends. Now we can see how Prince Wales is riding on horseback carrying Princess Henrietta in a bridal manner, but she is awake. Wales, soon, we will arrive at the place where we first met, Lake Lagdorian. Henrietta, Lake Lagdorian. Wales, there's a hidden route in the lake. Using that route, we can enter Albion. Henrietta, Albion. Wales, I love you, Henrietta. I won't let anyone stop us. At that, Prince Wales speeds up the horse to reach his destination faster, while the princess smiles and snuggles into the prince's chest. Meanwhile, further back, we can see a squadron of knights hurrying in search of the princess. Knight, quick, we must go up with our queen. Knight 2, Captain, your highness. Then they see a powerful wind spell heading towards them. Captain, careful. At that, the spell impacts, generating a large column of dust while the knights continued their march, since the attack failed, and they were already close to where the person who had the princess was. Captain, aim at the horse? At that moment, the other knights take out a rifle to aim at the horse, but suddenly another attack of wind approaches. Knight, careful, Captain. After that, the attack creates a large smoke screen. Henrietta wails, what are you doing? That's my fire squad. Wales, sorry, not even they could stop us. Henrietta, no way. Wales, believe me, I'll explain it to you later. Henrietta, but... Wales, all you need to do is follow this oath. Flashback starts. Henrietta, I, the Princess of Tristan, Henrietta, solemnly swear under the eyes of the water spirits that I will love Wales forever. Flashback ends. Wales, I love you, Henrietta. Now you are protecting that oath you made to the water spirits. The Prince of Albion will always love Henrietta. Henrietta wails. Meanwhile, returning with Issei and the girls, they were doing what they could, but suddenly they saw something pass by their side. After a few seconds, they noticed that it was a blue dragon, but not just any blue dragon. It was Tabitha's familiar, which brought her and Kerchi. Kerchi, hello dear, your dear Kerchi has arrived. Issei, Kerchi, what are you doing here? Kerchi, we came to support you. Issei, I see, thanks. Louise, what are you doing here? This is a secret mission, can't you come? Issei, Louise, that doesn't matter now. Tabitha, come closer. At that, Tabitha approaches him with the dragon, then Issei proceeds to leave Louise and Rosweiss with him. Issei, take them so I can go faster. Tabitha, down. Issei, what? Then they look down and can see someone carrying Princess Henrietta. They were riding very fast on horseback. Issei, I see them now. At that point, the prince begins to slow down since he had already reached the lake, but Issei decides to descend in front of them, which causes the horse to get scared upon seeing him and knock down the prince and the princess. Issei, where are you going, princess? At that point, Issei notices that the one carrying the princess was Prince Wales. Issei, sad face, thinking, I shouldn't be dead. Derflinger, comrade, it has nothing to do with that ring they mentioned before. Issei, you're right. Meanwhile, with the prince and princess. Wales, are you okay? Henrietta, yes. Wales, come on, the right ship is in front of us. At that, Wales looks forward and sees the red armor in front of him. Issei, where are you going with the princess? Wales, you don't care. At that point, the prince tries to take another direction, but a blue dragon lands in front of him, causing him to stop, and the girls descend from the dragon. Louise, princess, are you okay? Tabitha, don't let it advance. Kerchi, sorry about that. At that, Kerchi notices that he was the person they were chasing. Kerchi, don't tell me, it's Henrietta, Her Majesty. Issei, return to the princess. Wales, stop babbling nonsense. At that, Wales embraces the princess with his right arm. Wales, the princess's wish is to be with me. Issei, what did you say? Louise, princess. Issei, Wales, don't tell me you used Andreville's rings to revive? Kerchi, what did you say? Wales, hee. Louise, princess, your majesty, please come with us. He is not the Wales we knew. While they were talking, it began to cloud over and lightning began to appear, announcing that it would soon start to rain. Louise, it's just an ancient spirit. Henrietta, Louise, stop talking about strange things, you know him too, Wales before his death, this is the Real Wales. Suddenly it starts to rain. Wales, how about you get out of the way now? Louise, princess. Kerchi, I don't really understand what's going on, but. Tabitha, talking is pointless. At that, Tabitha begins to prepare an enchantment. Tabitha, Dalvius Huntalu his Hisahiru. At that moment, a large amount of ice fragments fly out of Tabitha's staff and hit the prince, causing him to be pierced, leaving several wounds. Wales, your attack is useless, it is unable to hurt me. Princess Wales. Kerchi, so what about this? And Kerchi throws a large amount of fire against the prince while Tabitha throws wind to strengthen Kerchi's fire, but the prince protects himself with a magic shield. Wales, didn't I just say that doesn't make sense? At that moment, the prince launches a strong wind attack towards Tabitha and Kerchi, which causes them to fly into the trees. Louise, Kerchi. Tabitha. Princess, did you see him? He's not the Wales you knew. Princess, no, this can't be possible, he said. I will love you eternally, Henrietta. Louise, don't be fooled. Princess, have you ever truly loved someone, Louise? True love is about leaving everything behind to be with him, so please stop obstructing. Louise, you're wrong, love isn't about that, it's about always being together and supporting each other, not about getting away from everything, so your majesty, please come to your senses. Princess, this is the order of Queen Louise Françoise, this is my last order for you, please get out of my way. Issei, I'm sorry, Queen, but no, it doesn't matter what you say now. Princess, Issei, please out of my way, I've already made my decision, I'm going to follow Wales wherever you go. Issei, I'm sorry, Princess, but if you still insist on going, you'll have to go through me and you know you won't make it. Wales, we'll see. Issei, boost. At that, the prince casts a powerful spell of seeing towards Issei. Issei, dragon shot. After Issei launched his dragon shot, it easily destroyed the prince's attack, hitting him directly and causing him to fly into a tree. Princess, Wales, Issei, don't come closer. At that, the princess casts an ice spell against Issei, causing a wall of ice to appear in front of him. Louise, Issei. Issei, don't worry, Louise. Princess, I won't let them lay a finger on Wales, please stop this clogging dome. At that moment, Issei approaches the ice wall and destroys it with a single punch. Issei, I'm sorry, Princess, but I won't do it. Then the captain of the knights appears from behind a tree. Captain, Princess? Princess, Louise, please give up. At that, the prince gets up and stands behind the princess and takes her hands so that she stops shaking. Wales, correct, this is the way, this is where the ideas coincide. At that moment, a hurricane begins to form on the princess's wand. Wales, the water hurricane and the wind hurricane. At that point, the hurricanes come together, giving way to a large tornado that was approaching Issei. Then, Issei summons Derflinger and Ascalon to stop the tornado. Issei, I can't let it advance or the girls will get hurt. Derflinger, hey, how about you take a look at the secret manual? Louise, secret manual? At that, Louise takes out the book that the princess had given her earlier, she opens it and starts searching in it. Louise, there's nothing written on it. But suddenly, strange runes begin to shine in the book. Louise, cancel magic? Derflinger, that's now you can see it. Wales, Albion's royal bloodline, hexagonal magic, no one can stop us now. Princess Louise. Louise, blue Cersas and Seduk. Issei, come on Louise, you can do it quickly. Derflinger, we will protect your master until the spell is finished. It is your duty, Gandalf. Louise Kyo Fu and I do nourishes. Issei, you're right, I'm her familiar, my duty is to protect her. Louise, Halus Yara Didio is. When Louise finishes saying the spell, a large pillar of light comes out of her, causing a large blue ray to fall on Wales. Wales, hahawaha. After a few seconds, the attack that the prince had carried out disappears, and you can see the prince's body almost lifeless, and the princess crying over him. At that, Wales begins to move his arm and puts his hand on Henrietta's face. Henrietta, Wales? Wales, Henrietta, stop crying. Before I go, I would like you to forgive me and insert an oath, Henrietta. Henrietta, an oath? What oath should I take? Wales, forget me. Make an oath to forget me and fall in love with someone else. I wish to hear those words by the side of the Lagdorian lake, with the water spirits as witnesses. Henrietta, I can't make an oath like that. Wales, please, Henrietta. Henrietta, no way, I won't take the oath. Wales, I'm running out of time. Henrietta, in that pot, make an oath that you will love me for all eternity, an oath, not like the Wales of the past, like the Wales of the present. Wales, I would if I could, but one who is dead cannot make an oath for eternity. Henrietta, forgive me, Henrietta. 3 years ago I could not say those words because of my inevitable fate. Hag. Henrietta, Wales? Wales, I'm happy to have met you, Henrietta. I will love you forever. Henrietta, Wales, Wales, please open your eyes. Seeing this, Louise couldn't help but shed a few tears, but Issei hugged her from behind. Henrietta, Wales, Wales. Chapter 21, Julio Cesare. We are in the courtyard of the academy where all the students are gathered, and this is because the princess had requested the help of the academy, which meant that all the male students of the academy would go to war to help the kingdom in battle. Meanwhile, we can see two people talking, and these were Guiche and Montmorency who were talking, and Montmorency had her back to him because Guiche would go to war. Guiche, Montmorency, I'm leaving to be enlisted in the army. I hope you see me off with a smile. Montmorency, with a smile? Do you realize what you're doing? You could lose your life in battle. Guiche, dying protecting the kingdom, wouldn't that bring honor to the royal families? Montmorency, what kind of honor is that? If you die, we'll never see each other again. Guiche, so those are your thoughts with me. Montmorency, isn't it obvious? At that, tears begin to form on both of them. Guiche takes Montmorency by the shoulders and begins to approach slowly. Montmorency, Guiche. While they were in their romantic moment, Issei, Louise, and Rosweiss were near the place watching the couples saying goodbye while they were talking. Louise, the royal army seems to be taking Albion's attack very seriously, huh? Rosweiss, you're right, they even allowed all the male students of the Magic Academy to enlist. Issei, it must be hard to be from a royal family? While they were talking, Issei noticed something approaching the academy, flying quickly. He noticed that what was approaching quickly was a white dragon. After a few minutes, the other students also saw that something was approaching the academy. Student, what is that? Student 2, I don't know, but it's coming very fast. After a few minutes, they see how a white dragon landed at the academy, and it was ridden by an unknown blonde boy, and as soon as the girls saw him, they all ran to where he arrived and began to talk to him except Louise and Rosweiss. Even Montmorency, who was in a romantic moment, she left him aside for the new stranger who arrived. All the girls who were around him murmured several things. Girl, it's so cute. Girl 2, will it be a new student? Girl 3, will have a girlfriend. At that point the young man starts walking, ignoring all the girls around him, heading straight to where Issei, Louise, and Rosweiss were talking about who the new person was, until suddenly this boy interrupts them. Unknown, good morning. Then he takes Louise and Rosweiss' hand and gives each of them a kiss. Unknown, my name is Julio Cesare, a transfer student from Amalia. It's a pleasure to meet you. In that, Issei notices how Julio was flirting with the girls, which caused him a slight anger due to his dragon instincts, so he decides to interfere between them. Issei. Hello, my name is Issei. Julio was a little surprised but continued the same. Julio, nice to meet you, my name is Julio, and your names are beautiful. The girls were not affected in the least that he flattered them since they were in a relationship with issei. Rosweiss, my name is Rosweiss. Louise, and my name is Louise and he is issei. Julio, I hope we get along. Time jump now we find ourselves in the academy inside, to be more specific in the classroom in Professor Colbert's class, who was teaching an alchemy lesson. He was with a metal bar in one hand and with the other he had a blue flame on his index finger. Colbert, use the flame to raise the temperature and the color will become muddled. Did you know that this alloy cannot be manufactured unless it is at a high temperature? But all the students were not paying attention to his class since they were all still observing the new student who had just arrived at the academy, and how beautiful they found him. Kirchi, I heard that he was a Shinto clergyman in Ramalia, that's why he couldn't join the royal army. Tabitha, Shinto clergyman, why did he come to the magic academy? Kirchi, I have no idea, but what's wrong with that? He's very handsome after all. Meanwhile, in another part of the room, Louise, Rosweiss, and issei were talking and were staring into space, thinking. Louise, hey Rosweiss, do you know why issei reacted that way when Julio greeted us? Rosweiss, that's because issei, being a dragon, is affected by his instincts, that's why he reacted that way. Louise, what do you mean by instincts? Rosweiss, dragons are unique in love since they are guided by their instincts. In these cases, since in this they become stronger, they protect their partners as the most important thing, in addition to being overprotective when other males approach them. Louise, I see. Louise, sad face, thinking, so I am very important to issei. Thinking about that, a slight blush forms on her face while Rosweiss watches this with a small laugh at Louise's reaction to what she has just been told, while issei is in his own head thinking. Issei, thinking, who is this Julio, and what is he doing in this place if he comes from Romania? Issei was interrupted in his thoughts as suddenly the royal guards entered the academy, interrupting Professor Colbert's class. Issei, sad face, whispering, Nanya? Unease, gather everyone at the meeting place. Colbert, who are you? Unease, I am from His Majesty's Firearms Squadron, and I am here to train the royal army for battle. We will use the academy for that period of time. Gentlemen, all lessons are suspended until further notice. Colbert, suspended? Knight, everyone go to the meeting area now. Quickly! At that, Colbert looks at his students and speaks. Colbert, students, sit down. Upon hearing that, all the students stop in their places, looking at the teacher. Colbert, will continue the class. Unease, Professor, we are in wartime, it is not the time to teach. Colbert, since it's wartime, they need to learn how stupid it is to fight in a war. Even if all the men have enlisted, will they stop talking about the war in school? At that, Unease takes his sword and quickly unsheathes it, pointing it at the professor's neck. Unease, shut up. Seeing this, all the students are in shock since their teacher was being threatened by a knight of the royal guard. Unease, I've always hated magicians, especially fire ones. Issei, sad face, thinking, so he hates fire mages? After a few seconds, he smiles and puts away the sword. Upon doing this, Professor Colbert relaxes and steps back, colliding with the blackboard and then sitting on the floor. Unease, do not interfere with my mission. Knight, go to the meeting area. At that, all the students start walking again towards the meeting place. At that, issei stands still looking at Professor Colbert, who was sitting on the floor leaning against the wall holding his neck and breathing heavily. After a few minutes, all the students were outside the academy in the courtyard. At the meeting place, they were with a stick with a ball at each end, all formed up ready to start training. Meanwhile, issei was somewhat apart, thinking of a new way to fight with now his two swords. Unease, attention, we will start training now. Montmorency, wait, we're wizards. We don't need tools like these. At that, Montmorency throws the cane to the ground. Montmorency, whether we attack or defend, we only need our magic for battle. Unease, upon hearing that, begins to walk towards where Montmorency was, who had already taken out her wand and had it raised in her right hand. Unease, magic, huh? At that, Unease quickly takes the hand that Montmorency was holding the wand with, and takes it away with his other hand. Then, with the hand that was holding Montmorency's, he makes her turn around and begins to bend her arm against her back, which causes Montmorency to start complaining of pain. Anis tried to defeat me with magic, what's happening? Montmorency, it hurts. Anis, can't you do anything without your wand? You would have died if I were your enemy. Montmorency, let me go please. Anis, you won't know what will happen in a real battle. Even if you can use magic, there might not be enough time. At that, Anis begins to walk away from Montmorency, and while walking backwards he throws his wand at him. After reaching the place where he was at the beginning, he begins to give the instructions again. Anis, listen up. We're starting basic training now, so you can protect yourselves in battle. Let's begin. While the girls were starting their training, Issei was in a somewhat distant part of the city, talking with Rosswise. Issei, Rosswise, and that's what I want to do. Rosswise, I see, so you want to create your own two-sword style so you can fight using Derflinger and Ascalon. Issei, yes, so I'll start training. If I need help, I'll ask you, Rosswise. Rosswise, count on me, Issei. In the meantime, I will also train with my magic to strengthen myself. Meanwhile, we can see how Julio, who was approaching to train, and that all the girls approach her to ask her to train with them, even she went to Kers. Kerchi, will you train only with me? Julio, I'm sorry, but I've already decided who my opponent will be. Then Julio continued walking while everyone watched him until Kerchi noticed where Julio was heading. Kerchi, so I would try to train with. Then Julio stops in front of Louise. Julio, Miss Valier, no, can I call you Louise? Louise, okay, but what do you want? Julio, I want to ask you if you want to be my opponent. Louise, I don't think she's the one. This conversation caught Issei's attention, who turned to look at Louise. Julio, come on, attack me, come on. At that, Louise gets into a combat stance and tries to attack Julio, but he easily dodges it by running to the side, but Julio stops her so she doesn't pass by. Julio, what a shame. It's not like that. Louise, yes. At that point, Louise separates from Julio. Kerchi, what's going on? Why does it have to be Louise? Issei, I see that Louise is still struggling with the physical part. I'll tell her to train. At that, Issei notices how someone had jumped to attack him, which causes him to reflexively bring out Ascalon and block the person's attack, but when he uses a wooden sword, it breaks. This act leaves the person who attacked him impressed. Knight, I see you have reflexes. Issei, thanks, but why was that? Knight, I wanted to test you, come on, let's have a duel. Issei, okay, but wooden swords or real ones? Knight, let's go with the real ones. I'm curious about that sword and where you got it from. Issei, I see this sword is Ascalon, and where I got it from is a secret. Knight, well, let's begin. Issei, it's okay. In that, both get into combat positions ready to start. The knight is going to attack Issei, but he quickly blocks her attack with his sword. Then he pushes her forward, which causes the knight to jump back to reposition herself, but Issei takes advantage of this comment to counterattack. He moves quickly to attack the knight from the side, but luckily she manages to block Issei's attack, but she did not expect that Issei, after his attack was blocked, he sends a kick directly to the stomach of this one, which causes her to go backwards and fall to the ground. In that, Issei stands in front of the knight and puts his sword near her neck of this one. Issei, and what did you think? Knight, you're pretty good, you surprised me. Issei, thank you. At that, Issei removes the sword from the knight's neck and vanishes her. He then extends his hand to help her up, and she accepts it. When she realizes this, they see how all the students were watching him, and Issei sees how Louise runs to wherever he is. Louise, Issei. Issei, what's up, Louise? Louise, why were you facing this knight? Issei, she wanted a fight to test me, so I agreed. Louise, I see, but don't you think you went too far with the force of the kick? Issei, I'm sorry. Rosswise, wow, Issei, you surprised me. You've improved a lot since the last time I saw you fight with swords. Issei, thanks, Rosswise, I've been training in my free time. Rosswise, I see. At that moment, Julio, who had observed everything, decided to approach them and spoke to them, interrupting their conversation. Julio, interesting. Issei, would you have a duel with me? You have surprised me by how good you are, and I also want to try you. Issei, it's no problem for me, so I'll try something I'm thinking about doing. Louise issei, I don't think the best thing now is to fight with everyone. Rosweiss, you're wrong, Louise. This way, issei can continue training with new opponents, and thus gain more experience. Louise issei, be careful and don't hurt Julio so much. Issei, it's okay Louise, don't worry, I won't hurt him too much. Julio, then you accept. Issei, if I accept your duel. Julio, well, this will be tomorrow at noon, and to make it more interesting, how about we bet something? Issei, and what would we bet on? Julio, I know what you think, the winner will receive a kiss from Louise, what do you say? Louise, wait, aren't you supposed to be a Shinto priest, right? Julio, I've abandoned him since I came to Tristan, that's why I'm allowed to carry a sword, it's the same with regard to love. At that moment Julio approaches Louise and takes her hands and looks her straight in the eyes, but he is interrupted by Issei, who was angry. Issei, but what are you saying? Louise is my girlfriend, why would I let you Brasara? Julio, I see, so you're a couple. Well then, how about we bet something else? Issei, and what would it be then? Julio, the winner can ask the loser for whatever he wants. Issei, I accept but without regret. After this talk, Julio leaves, leaving Issei, Louise and Rosweiss alone in the place, since all the girls left following Julio and the knights left to continue training. Louise, Issei, are you really not going to let him kiss me? Issei, of course I won't leave him. I won't leave anyone else but me, since I love you, Louise. At that Issei approaches Louise, takes her by the chin and gives her a soft kiss on the lips. After a few seconds they separate, and leave Louise with a slight blush. But at that Issei notices that Rosweiss was pouting and looking at Issei. Issei, what's wrong with my Rosweiss? Rosweiss, that's unfair, I want one too. Issei, you just have to ask me. At that Issei approaches Rosweiss, and kisses her on the lips. After a few seconds they separate and Rosweiss blushes. Issei better? Rosweiss, yes thank you. Issei, whenever I want my Rosweiss. After that moment the girls leave, leaving only Issei, who decides to start training his new style of fighting with two swords. After being a few hours training with both swords, Issei notices how someone approaches him and turns around to see that the person who was approaching him was no one else but Anise. Anise, I see you're still training. Issei, yes. Anise, and what is the reason for this? Issei, I want to become stronger in sword combat. Anise, I see, but why do you use two? Issei, it's something I saw before and wanted to try it myself. Anise, I see, but does it have a result? Issei, so far yes, but I haven't tested it in combat. Anise, do you think you could try it against me? Issei, it's okay. In that Anise gets into a battle stance and draws her sword while Issei with his two swords stands on guard with one sword higher than the other, and the other below. In that the fight begins. The first to attack was Anise, which jumped over Issei, which blocked the downward attack with both swords in an X shape. After a few seconds Issei with Ascalon begins to push until finally he managed to push enough to allow him to attack with Derflinger. Anise seeing this jumps back, dodging Issei's attack, but he takes the opportunity to attack her with Ascalon in a descending manner, which was blocked by Anise's sword. But Issei took advantage of this to also attack with Derflinger, but Anise quickly turns her sword to block that attack as well, leaving Ascalon colliding with the part closest to the handle, while with the tip of the sword also blocked Derflinger. Anise, I'm not like my knight, you won't fool me so easily. Issei, I see you're right, you're better, but. At that Issei pushes with both swords upwards, causing Anise to raise his sword, giving him and Issei the opportunity to attack, who turns around and kicks Anise hard in the stomach, which causes her to hit a wall. At that Issei quickly approaches where Anise is and puts his swords in an X formation around Anise's neck. Issei, you give up. Anise, yes. At that Issei withdraws the swords and makes them vanish, which causes a little astonishment in Anise. Anise, I see that you are very strong and have great skill with the sword. Issei, thanks for that, but you are also very good with the sword, apart from being beautiful. At that Issei, upon hearing what he said, gets nervous and apologizes, while Anise, upon hearing that from Issei, blushes slightly. Anise, thanks for that. Meanwhile, in another part of the academy, To be more specific, in Louise's room, we can see two people talking, Louise and Rosweiss. Louise, it's getting late. It's almost time for dinner. Rosweiss, he always trains hard if it's for something he cares about. Louise, I see, but it's still too late to go look for him. Rosweiss, okay, let's go. Then the two leave the room in search of Issei. After a while they arrive where Kerchi and Tabitha were chatting until they are interrupted by the girls. Louise, Kerchi, have you seen Issei? Kerchi, I think she was with the night captain. Rosweiss, what were they doing? Kerchi, they were together but they looked happy. At that, upon hearing what Kerchi says, they both get angry since they thought Issei was looking for someone else. They say goodbye and quickly go to the training camp where Issei was. Tabitha, why did you do it? Kerchi, to have a little fun. While with the girls they arrived at the training camp, but when they saw what Issei was doing they were surprised since he was fighting with Anise with two swords, one per hand, while Anise was alone with one. Louise, it seems we were wrong. Rosweiss, you're right, Issei wouldn't be able to deceive us since he himself told us that we were very important to him. Louise, you're right, but let's talk about going to dinner. Then the girls go to where Issei and Anise were fighting, and when they see them they stop fighting to see what is happening. Issei, what's up, girls? Louise, you were taking too long, and we came to see what the reason was. Rosweiss, but you were just training. Issei, yes, but come on, I'm already hungry. Louise, it's okay. Issei, are you coming with us? Anise, okay, let's go. Then everyone goes to dinner since it was late. Chapter 22, Julio Cesare Part 2. Now we can see all the students gathered in the courtyard in the training area, and this is because Issei is going to face Julio in a sword duel and the winner will ask the loser for whatever he wants. Issei was in front of Julio with his two swords unsheathed with Ascalon in his right hand and Derflinger in his left, while in front of him was Julio with a single sword held by both hands ready for combat. Julio, interesting way of fighting with two swords. Issei, thanks, it's something new I want to try. Julio, but it doesn't matter, I'll still defeat you. Issei, we'll see about that. At that point the fight between the two begins. The first to attack is Issei, who quickly goes to where Julio was and attacks him with Ascalon with a downward slash. Julio, seeing this, reacts quickly and blocks Issei's attack with his sword. However, Issei, seeing this, attacks with Derflinger, trying to cut him, but Julio manages to jump back, evading Issei's attack. Julio, I see you're good, that attack really surprised me. Issei, thanks, you're not bad either. Julio, but it won't be enough to defeat me. In this, Julio is going to attack Issei quickly, and when he gets to where he is, he tries to perform a lateral cut from the right, but Issei blocks it with both swords. Julio, seeing this, begins to quickly attack Issei in different ways, but Issei dodges them or blocks them with his swords. Both exchange blows with their weapons, but in a moment of Issei's carelessness, Julio gets behind him and tries to attack him. Issei, seeing Julio's actions, quickly jumps to dodge the attack that came towards him and puts himself in a fighting stance again. Issei, you surprised me because of that. Julio, thanks, but I'll still beat you. Issei, we'll see, but don't you think it's time to end this? Julio, you're right. This way I'll win faster and I'll be able to ask you to stay away from them. At that point, Julio points to Louise and Rosweiss. Issei, are you an idiot? Do you really think I'll get away from them? I'll beat you and make you eat your words. Julio, we'll see. In that they resume the fight, exchanging cuts all over, but in that Julio raises his sword and makes a decent attack against Issei, but before Julio finishes the attack he jumps, dodging the attack, so that later he kicks Julio in the side, causing him to fall to the ground from the force of the blows, so that then Issei approaches him and puts his swords crossed around his neck. Issei, it seems like I beat you. Julio, so it seems. At that, Issei withdraws his swords, causing them to disappear and ending the fight, leaving Issei as the winner. Then, the girls, seeing that Julio was hurt, run to help him. At that, Issei begins to march to where the girls were. Rosweiss, I congratulate you on your victory, Issei. Issei, thanks, Rosweiss. Louise, well done, Issei, but don't you think you overdid it with that hit? You could have hurt him more. Issei, maybe, but he will get better after all. He has many people trying to help him. At that point, the boys' conversation is interrupted because a guard approaches them and speaks to them. Knight, secret call sign 0, there is an emergency, follow me, go ahead. At that point, the boys begin to follow the knight in the direction of the academy, to be more specific, the director's office. After a few minutes of walking, they arrive at it and enter, but upon entering, they see a hooded person with his back turned looking out the window. There was also Anise, the captain of the fire forces, and Julio was also leaning against the wall. Anise, good job, now go. At that, the knight says goodbye to her captain and leaves, closing the door. After that, Issei sees that Julio is there. Issei, Julio, why are you here? And what were your intentions with that duel? Julio, I wasn't interested in losing or winning, but you still beat me. What I really wanted was to know the skills of my comrades. Issei, comrades? Unknown, so comrades. At that moment, the person who was looking out the window turned around, revealing that it was Princess Henrietta. Louise, it can't be. At that, Louise kneels, but the princess, seeing this, walks to where she is and lifts her up, taking her hands. Henrietta, Louise, Issei, thanks for the other day. Louise, don't mention it, princess. I'm sorry if we were a little rude to you that day. Henrietta, don't worry, they helped me a lot. At that point, the princess begins to remember what happened the day Wales returned and how it all ended with Wales dying in the princess's arms. Henrietta, whispering, they helped him anyway. At that, the princess returns to where she was at the beginning, and Julio goes ahead to the height where Issei, Louise, and Rosweiss were. Julio, I've heard things about Wales. In the end, it was a conspiracy created by Albion. Issei, princess, is he also involved in this? Julio, of course, after all we are comrades. Issei, what do you mean by comrades? Julio, Romelia's Pope is also concerned about Albion's actions, so he sent me to help the princess. Henrietta, the Pope and I did everything possible to prevent the war, but the situation now is very difficult. Henrietta, Louise, Issei, Julio and Ennis, you are the only ones I can trust. Louise, yes, princess. Issei, in other words, the princess wants to summon her own men from the academy? Louise, what do you mean by that? Are you going to argue with the princess? Issei, not only did he think out loud what Professor Colbert had said before. Ennis, don't bring war to the academy. Okay? Henrietta, Issei, I have no intention of bringing war to the academy. I only asked to borrow the entity's forces to be able to bring peace. Will you be able to help me? Issei, yes, princess. At that moment, Julio starts walking to where Lise was with Rosweiss. She was quiet because she wanted to get up to date on the whole situation in a better way, apart from what Issei had explained to her previously. At that moment, when Julio arrives at where Louise was, he takes her hands and looks her straight in the eyes. Julio, take care of me again, Louise. After saying that, Julio kisses Lise's hand, which causes her surprise and Issei's irritation, who, upon seeing this, quickly separates them. Issei, don't do that to Louise again. While they continued talking, another situation was developing far away, to be more exact in the kingdom of Albion, where everyone was gathered because an important speech was being given. Unknown people, first of all I would like to announce some bad news. The Queen of Trihexa, Henrietta, Her Majesty, to carry out her coronation ceremony has been freed from our King Cromwell, His Majesty. At that point everyone starts complaining about the Queen and her actions, but the person keeps talking. Unknown, to invade our kingdom with her hands covered in blood, the Queen has been gathering people for her army. Unknown 2, Sophie, wasn't she just Cromwell's secretary? Unknown 3, aren't you trying to restructure the government? Unknown 2, it's like she's planning to be the new queen. Unknown 3, but once this woman stands in front of you it seems there is no way to resist. Unknown 2, what kind of person is he? Army, long live Sophie's new kingdom, long live! Long live! Time jump. We can see the three of them sleeping together in their new bed bigger than the previous one, and now they slept without problems in the following way. Issei was in the middle of the two with his arms being used as a pillow by the girls. Louise was to the left of Issei snuggling up in his arm while Issei hugged her, while on the right side was Rias, also sleeping using Issei's right arm as a pillow while Issei hugged her. They were all sleeping very comfortably until suddenly the door of the room is strongly opened, causing them to wake up and see who it was who had made such a noise. When turning towards the door, they can see a young blonde woman with glasses somewhat similar to Louise, only that she was taller and more developed than Louise. Unknown. Louise, what are you doing and who is Al? Louise, Eleanor. Eleanor, I see you woke up early, but who is he and who is she? Louise, they are. Eleanor, you know, it doesn't matter, get ready. Louise, what? Eleanor, hurry up. We're going home. Louise, what? Issei, wait, who are you and why are you sending Louise? Eleanor, who are you and what is your relationship with my sister? Issei, I am Hayato Issei, Issei's boyfriend, and who are you? Eleanor, boyfriend? Louise, I want an explanation. Louise, well, you see, sister, what happens is that. In that, Louise tells her everything that happened regarding Issei and his arrival, as well as Rias, and also what their relationship was like. It is worth mentioning that Louise's sister was in shock after everything Louise had told her. Eleanor, I see, but Louise, it's time to go home anyway. Louise, but sister. Eleanor, no buts, come on. Hurry up and get your things ready, we're leaving. Time jump. Now we see how Louise is dragged through the courtyard while Issei and Rias were following her, and Issei was carrying her things. Louise, wait sister please. Then Eleanor sees Siesta, who was near the place doing her chores. Eleanor, you over there, you will come too. At that, Eleanor approaches where she was napping and begins to drag along with her sister. Eleanor, they'll have to work along the way. Louise, let me go. Then they arrive at some carriages that were waiting for them, and he makes them get in, then they start moving. All this was observed by Julio, who was with his dragon at a safe distance from the place. Julio, what a noisy commotion. Time jump. Now we can see how Issei, Siesta, and Rias were in a carriage while Louise and her sister were in another. It is worth mentioning that in the carriage that Issei, Rias, and Siesta were in, the latter two were resting their heads on Issei's shoulders. Issei, this is a little tight, are you okay with this? Both, if we have no problems. While in Louise's carriage. Louise, they're too close. At that, Louise's sister starts pulling her cheeks. Eleanor, little Louise, I'm still talking to you. Louise, it hurts, I'm sorry, sister. Eleanor, since we left you've been distracted by don't you have composure? Louise, but Issei is. Eleanor, really, with those military trainings the Magic Academy looks unusual. I can't leave you there. When we get home you will be trained to be a bride. Louise, but... At that moment, Louise feels a presence that scares her, which causes her to see her sister, who is furious about her sister's response. Eleanor, but... It's yes, little one. Little Louise. At that, Louise's sister grabs her cheeks again and starts pulling them harder than before. Returning to Issei and the girls, Issei notices how Siesta is a little depressed. Issei, Siesta, is something wrong? You've been feeling a bit down lately. Siesta, it's that you hardly spend any time with me. You're always with Louise helping her with magic or training with Rias, and sometimes even with that knight. Issei, I'm sorry, Siesta, if I've been somewhat distant from you. It's because I've been worried about the war and I don't want anything to happen to you. That's why I've been training as much as I can. Siesta, I know you care about us, but I would like you to spend a little more time with me. Issei, I know and I'm sorry. Siesta, I'll worry about spending more time with you. At that moment, Issei approaches her and gives her a soft kiss on the lips, which causes Siesta to blush at her boyfriend's actions. But Louise was watching them from behind, and this made her jealous. Time jump. Now it's night, and after a long journey they finally arrive at Louise's house, which turned out to be a huge mansion. Issei, so this is Louise's house? Upon entering Louise's house, they are greeted by several servants who were lined up waiting at the entrance for the arrival of Eleanor and Louise. Servants, welcome Miss Eleanor, Miss Louise. Unknown, welcome home little Louise. Chapter 23 Sisters. Unknown, welcome little Louise. Louise, Chinissima. At that, Louise drops the bag with her things that she was carrying and runs to where her sister was, ready to revive her with a hug. Issei, wow, so that's Louise's sister, they look a lot alike. Louise Katla's sister is just like Louise with pink hair. She is taller and more developed, but she is very similar to Louise. Louise, it's been a long time, Chinissima. Katla, Louise, let me see your face well. At that, Louise breaks away from the hug and looks into her sister's eyes. Katla, gosh. You've become really beautiful. Louise, ho, Chinissima, how is your health? Katla, thank you, it's the same as always. Upon hearing this, Louise makes a small sad face, but Katla notices and speaks to her. Katla, don't worry, it's always been like this. Eleanor, Katla, where is our mother? Time jump. Now we can see how the three sisters are sitting together eating with their mother, and behind them were all the servants who received them standing, and next to them were issei-senyu and Rosweiss. Louise, mother. Eleanor, mother, please tell Louise clearly to be quiet at home, after all she is a failure at the Magic Academy. Upon hearing this, Louise gets angry, stands up, and hits the table with both fists at the same time. Louise, I am not like before, I'm being useful to the princess, she says that my power is necessary. Eleanor, your power? What can a zero like you do? Louise, Eleanor, mother, we should hurry and make her a bride, what do you say about Baron Albert's second son? Issei, upon hearing that, becomes a little alarmed at how things were turning out at the table. Louise, why does it have to be like this? You should get married before me. What happened to the engagement with the Count of Burgundy? Katla, Louise, that. Eleanor, upon hearing this, gets angry and begins to unleash a murderous instinct against Louise. Eleanor, little Louise. By speaking to me like that, it seems you've grown in arrogance. Louise, seeing how her sister reacted to what she had mentioned, began to get scared. Eleanor, the engagement has been cancelled. Cancelled? Really? Do you have a problem with that? Louise, why? Eleanor, I don't know, anyway I've already reached my limit. At that point, Louise's mother decides to interrupt the two sisters' argument, and to get their attention, she starts clapping. Mother, Eleanor, Louise, we're in the middle of dinner. Eleanor, but mother. Mother, we will discuss Louise's future tomorrow when her father returns. Time jump, now it's like midnight, and everyone is getting ready to sleep. We can see how Issei was in his room thinking about what happened. Issei thought, it seems that in this world there are also the same problems with commitments as in mine, but it doesn't matter, I won't allow them to take Louise away from me. Meanwhile, in another room we can see Siesta and Rosweiss getting ready to sleep. They were talking. Siesta, it seems that Louise has a lot of problems with her family. Rosweiss, yes, I hope Issei doesn't do anything that will harm Louise. Siesta, you're right, besides I don't think it's fair that they force her to marry someone she doesn't love. Rosweiss, you're right, this brings back memories. Siesta, why do you say that? Rosweiss, well, what happens is that Issei has already been in a familiar situation in the past. Siesta, what do you mean? Rosweiss, well, I'll tell you shortly. After Issei became a demon. And so Rosweiss told him everything that had happened with Rias and the engagement with Razor. Meanwhile, on the other side of the house, we can see Louise and her sister Katla combing Louise's hair and then going to sleep while they were talking. Louise, why does Eleanorissima always scold me? Even in the past it was always like that. Katla, you are very pretty, and that worries her, she also loves you and tries to take care of you. Louise, that's not true. Katla, it's the same for me, because I love you, I know everything about you, you've reached the age where you start to fall in love. Louise blushes quickly when she hears her sister start talking about love. Louise, well, what does it matter if that happens? Katla, it seems like someone is in love. Louise, no, I don't know what you mean. Katla, come on, don't try to hide it, I know you very well. Louise, it's okay if I'm in love. Katla, no, seriously. What a surprise. Tell me, who is it? Louise, well, it's Issei. Katla Issei? That's not your familiar's name. Louise turns even redder than before. Louise, why yes it is the. Katla, wow, I've never heard of that kind of relationship between servant and master. Louise, well, he is special. Katla, well, but because it's special. Louise, well, it's that. So Louise starts telling him about what Issei is like, omitting that he comes from another dimension and that he is a demon. Meanwhile, in another place, we can see how Siesta is running through the hallways avoiding anyone seeing her. She goes in the direction of Issei's room. When she arrives, she knocks on the door and starts calling him. Siesta, whispering, Issei, Issei. But when she noticed that she didn't receive an answer, she decided to quietly enter the room. Upon entering, she noticed a lump in the bed and approached little by little. When she got there, she lifted the sheet a little and saw that it was Issei who was taking a nap. Seeing this so as not to disturb him, she carefully lay down next to him, and when Issei finished, he took her by the waist and pulled her into a hug. Noticing what Issei was doing while she was siesta, she blushed but didn't stop him. After Issei had finished moving while she siesta, she settled down and started using Issei's arm as a pillow. Meanwhile, in Louise's room, she had already finished talking to her sister, and they had both lain down in the same bed, but Louise couldn't fall asleep, and this was noticed by her sister. Katla, what's wrong? Can't you sleep? Louise, yes. Katla, are you thinking about Issei? Louise, yes, I'm just worried about him and the others. Hearing that, Katla turns to Louise and sits on the bed, then uncovers her. Katla, you should go to the place where you belong. After a few minutes, we can see how Louise was heading to Issei's room, and this was covered by a sheet which she used as a hooded tunic, but when she was arriving at Issei's room, she sees how Rosweiss was at the entrance of Issei's door with the same intentions. Louise, upon seeing her, approaches her quickly. Louise, what are you doing, Rosweiss? Rosweiss, hey, well, I woke up and noticed that Siesta wasn't there, so I went out to look for her, and the only place she would escape to would be here, so I came to look for her. Louise, I see, was that all it was? Didn't you have any intention of sleeping with Issei? Rosweiss, he, just a little. Louise, it's okay, after all we are their partners. Rosweiss, you're right, so shall we go in? Louise, it's okay. When Louise and Rosweiss enter the room, they notice a large lump in Issei's bed. They slowly approach the bed and slowly lift the sheet, only to see how Issei was sleeping, and at the same time he was hugging Siesta, and she was using her arm as a pillow. When they saw this, they felt jealous of Siesta, and they both looked into each other's eyes, and just with that look they proceeded to lie down with Issei Rosweiss on the other side of Issei from where Siesta was, and when doing this Issei hugged Rosweiss, and she settled down using her arm as a pillow and began to sleep with a smile, while Louise climbed onto Issei's chest and settled down to be able to use it as a more comfortable pillow. And she began to sleep with a slight smile on her face. Time jump. Now we can see how Louise's mother and her daughters were all having tea while talking until suddenly they were interrupted by a fifth person. This was a blonde man. It turned out to be Louise's father, who had just arrived from the trip he was on. Father, so Louise has returned? Mother, you arrived late, right? Did the military conference delay you? Father, if I must leave again, what a difficult time there is in the world. We are at war, but rushing the troops will upset people. The Queen is having problems. Louise, upon hearing this, becomes excited and decides to speak. Louise, father, about Henrietta-sama handling the war. Father, what do you know? Look, Louise, stop forcing yourself to learn magic. Just go back home and become a girlfriend. I won't discuss it anymore. At that, Louise's father turns around and leaves. When he finally leaves, Eleanor stands up and begins to speak. Eleanor, it's decided. Let's hurry up and start Louise's marriage proposals. It's the best way to calm this girl down. Louise, no, but Eleanor Nisima should get married first. Eleanor, upon hearing this, gets angry and begins to pull Louise's cheek. Eleanor, I already told you my engagement was cancelled. Louise, I'm sorry Nisima, but I don't want to get married. Katlia, Mother Nisama, forcing Louise to get married suddenly will only disturb her. Louise's mother, upon hearing this, opens her eyes and stares at Louise. Mother Louise, are you having an affair? Louise, no, I don't have any. Eleanor, it seems there's someone you like. Louise, hey. Mother, who is it? And what family name is it from? Eleanor, a count? A baron? He can't be a semi-baron or of a lower class, right? Louise, upon hearing that, only became more nervous and red-faced than before. Eleanor, is this girl really in love with a person of low social standing? Mother, this girl always makes me worry. And then Louise runs away from the place because of how her sister and mother reacted. Katla, Louise. Meanwhile, in another part of the house, we can see how Issei and Rosweiss were talking and Siesta was not there since she was working as an employee. They were talking about Louise's current situation. Rosweiss, and what are you going to do about Louise? Issei, I don't know if they commit her to someone else, I think I'll intervene. Rosweiss, yes, but don't overdo it if that happens. Issei, it's okay Rosweiss, I won't overstep my bounds. But while they were talking, they heard someone knocking at the door. Issei, it's open. Saying this, Issei notices that no one opens the door. At that, Issei gets up and goes to open the door and sees that it was Katla. Katla, do you mind if I come in? Issei, no, I don't have any problems, we were just talking. At that point, Katla enters the room and notices that Issei was not alone but with Rosweiss. Katla greets her and sits on Issei's bed. Issei, thinking, she really is beautiful, and this confirms to me that Louise will be just like her when she grows up. Katla, you are wrong, when Louise grows up she will be more beautiful than me. Issei, you're right. Katla, you know at this rate Louise will become a bride, you don't want Louise to get married, right? Issei, I won't allow it. Katla, she is in the park, can you go with her? That girl, when something goes wrong, hides in the boat in the park. Once you find Louise, leave the castle, a carriage will be waiting for you. Saying that, Katla approaches Issei and takes him by the face, bringing him a little closer. Katla, I wish good fortune between you and Louise. At that Katla kisses his forehead, which surprises Issei and Rosweiss, who were watching how the situation developed. Katla, I'll leave my beautiful sister in your hands, Issei. After saying that, Katla gets up and leaves the room, leaving Issei alone with Rosweiss. Issei, Rosweiss, it would be best if we listen to Lee and leave. Rosweiss, you're right Issei, besides I don't like being treated like a maid. Issei, okay, go tell Siesta and then wait for us where Katla said. Rosweiss, okay. At that Rosweiss gets up and approaches Issei and gives him a kiss on the lips. Rosweiss, remember that you are ours and no one else's. Hearing that, Issei blushed and a sincere smile formed on his face. Issei, of course, just like you are only mine and I won't let anyone harm you. In that, both of them leave the room in different directions, Issei to meet with Louise and Rosweiss to go look for Siesta. Meanwhile, in another place we can see how Louise was lying on a boat covered with a sheet crying. Louise, because they don't let me be who I want to be. I don't want to be forced to get married, I just want to be with Issei, and they still think I'm useless. At that Louise covers her head with the blanket, but after a few seconds someone uncovers her. It was Issei. Louise, Issei. Seeing him, Louise hugs him and calms his crying a little. Issei, noticing Louise's state, also hugs her. Issei, come on Louise, it's time to go. Your sister prepared a float for us. Louise, it doesn't matter. Issei, what do you mean? Louise, I can't tell my family about void magic, and no matter how hard I try, no one recognizes me. At that Issei sits next to Louise on the boat, takes her hands and looks at her. Issei, Louise, you know that you are one of the most important things for me. It doesn't matter if nobody recognizes you, then I will only recognize you more. Besides, you are not useless. I trust you just like Rosweiss, Siesta and Henrietta, we recognize you. At that Issei approaches Louise and kisses her. While they kissed, Issei begins to lay Louise down on the boat since he was getting carried away by the moment, but what they didn't notice was that because of so much movement the boat began to float and go with the current. After a few seconds, Issei separates from Louise. Louise, wait, Issei. Issei, I love you, Louise. At that, Issei begins to kiss Louise's neck, which causes her to start letting out slight moans. Louise, wait, Issei, we can't not hear. Issei, I love you, Louise, I really love you. Louise, really? Issei, really? Louise, really? Issei, really, Louise? Then Issei gives Louise another kiss and Issei hugs Louise's waist. Louise, wait, ha, Issei here, ha, no. In that, Issei kisses Louise again, and they are like that for a while until suddenly Louise feels like the boat reached land and decides to open her eyes, but when she does, she sees that her parents and several guards were waiting for them. Louise, when she sees them, pushes Issei out of fear, which causes Issei to leave the boat and land a few meters away. Issei, but what happened, Louise? At that moment, Issei sees who was there and becomes tense because of the impression. Meanwhile, Louise's father approaches him together with the guards. Father, behead him. Seeing this, Issei jumps back and summons Derflinger to fight. Derflinger, you were close, mate. Issei, shut up. At that, Issei begins to move his sword, cutting in different directions, but he doesn't hurt anyone. He does this so as not to hurt them. When he gets to where Louise was, he grabs her by the waist, and they jump away. In the air, his dragon wings decide to appear, which causes Louise's family and the guards to be surprised by what they just saw. Guard, he's not human. Guard 2, what is he? Issei, I'm sorry, but don't worry, Louise will be fine, father. Father, don't play with me, kid, and leave Louise alone. At that, Louise's father points his staff in Issei's direction. He fires a beam of green energy. Seeing that the attack was coming, Issei appears in his boosted gear and aims at the attack. Issei, boost dragon shot. At that, Issei fires his dragon shot at Louise's father's attack, causing them to counter each other, generating a cloud of smoke which Issei takes advantage of to escape faster. At that, his boosted gear disappears and he carries Louise princess style. After a few minutes, they arrive at the front of the house where a carriage was waiting for them in which inside were Rosweiss and Sieta. At that, Issei gets off next to it, and they get on the carriage and start moving, but later they see how an earth golem was pulling some chains which caused the bridge to rise, which prevented them from passing, but then they notice how the chains turn a pink color and then disappear, causing the bridge to fall, allowing them to advance and the golem to fall and crash to the ground. Issei looks back to see who was the one who helped them, and at that he notices how from the window of one of the rooms of the house Katlia was with a wand and a like, and was saying goodbye. Issei, seeing him, he just smiles and they start to leave, now with the path clear. Chapter 24, The Brand. We can see how all the girls from the Magic Academy are now in the courtyard training with some sticks in basic combat, while near them is Issei and Rosweiss fighting with swords. Issei is using his double sword style, while Rosweiss is only using one. But this training is interrupted because Anise arrives where the girls were to inform them of something. Knight, stop it. At that, all the students stop their practice. Issei and Rosweiss also stop their practice to pay attention to what was happening. Anise, regarding everyone's requests, in today's class we will teach you how to use magic on the battlefield. For that, we have entrusted our special guest from the Ori's Magic Academy to guide us. Then a blonde girl arrives with Anise and introduces herself, but when Issei, Louise, and Rosweiss see her, they are in shock. Unknown, I am Eleanor de la Valliere. Although we have just met, I hope we can learn and have fun together, okay? When Julio finishes speaking, Louise approaches him. Julio, hey, is she your older sister? She seems kind and gentle. Louise, as if that were the case. Time jump. Now we see Louise sitting on a bed, and in front of her was her sister Eleanor, and Issei was at the door listening to the conversation. Eleanor, believe it or not, Henrietta, Her Majesty, asked the Magic Academy to transfer me here. Louise, did the princess do it? Eleanor, the Valliere royal family has always closed the doors to girls with bad abilities. Who told that to His Majesty? I wonder who it was. How nosy, right? At that moment, Eleanor begins to pull Louise's cheek, and she begins to ache from the pain. Eleanor, who could it be? Louise, Eleanor Nisima, stop please. Eleanor, who? At that, Eleanor begins to pull harder. Eleanor, Her Majesty asked me personally. Help Louise, please. She asked me personally. It seems you had accepted some of the princess's requests. What the hell is that? You who can't do anything when it comes to magic. Louise, that. Eleanor, forget it. It wasn't anything important, right? It's a great opportunity anyway. I'll be watching your every move from here. Louise, hey. Eleanor, to make sure you don't get sidetracked by some plague, right? Issei, I don't know what you mean. At that moment, two small animals enter the room and run to where Louise was and stand at her feet. Louise, are these? At that moment, Louise, Katla's other sister, entered the room, carrying a cat in her arms. Katla, Louise. Louise, ha! Chinisima. At that, Louise becomes very happy to see her sister and goes to where she was, stands in front of her, and begins to talk. Louise, Chinisima, did you also come to the academy? Katla, yes, I came to help Eleanor Nisima. Eleanor, you should have stayed in the house with that weak body you have. Upon hearing that, Louise turns around and looks at her sister with a confused face. Eleanor, no matter what, I want to be with Louise. That's what she said. Upon hearing this, Louise became happier than before, and this was because her beloved Chinisima wanted to be with her at all costs. Louise, I'm very happy. I'm full of confidence now that Chinisima is here. Upon hearing this, Eleanor gets angry because she was being ignored by her sister, so she starts to pull Louise's cheeks. Eleanor, you should say, my two sisters, right? Louise, yes, that's right. Katlia, seeing this, just lets out a small laugh while Issei just sighed at the sister's repetitive attitude. Time jump. Now we see how Issei was unpacking Louise's sister's things, but suddenly one of the suitcases opens and drops all its contents, which turned out to be both of their underwear. He begins to quickly pick them up so that no one sees him and thinks he is a pervert, but suddenly he feels a small scream from behind him and turns around to see that the one who had released that scream was Siesta. Siesta, ha, Issei, it was you. Issei, who else would it be? Siesta, what happened here, Issei? Issei, well, you see, I was carrying Louise's sister's things and seeing what I had to wash, but suddenly one of the suitcases opened and everything fell. Siesta, I see, let me help you. Issei, thank you very much. Siesta, at first I thought you were a perverted panty thief. Issei, hee yes. At that, Siesta approaches where Issei was sitting and also sits on the bed. Siesta, leave these things to me. Issei, thank you. In that, Siesta takes one of the panties and starts looking at them. Siesta, they are so pretty, aren't they? Issei, yes, hee. Siesta, I would like to have clothes that pretty. I'm sure they would look good on me. Issei, you're right. Nap all, Issei. Issei, what's up, Siesta? Siesta, you know we're both alone here. During this nap, he starts to approach Issei, and Issei, seeing this, gets a little nervous. Issei, yes, what do you want to get to, Siesta? In that, Siesta, she climbs onto Issei and sits on his crotch and puts her arms around his neck. Siesta, don't you think we could have fun and move forward in our relationship? Issei, nap, this is not the best time. Then Siesta kisses Issei, who is a little surprised at first, but after a few seconds he hugs Siesta and kisses her back, but suddenly they are interrupted by the sound of the door opening loudly. When they hear the loud sound, they get scared and separate. Then they look in the direction where the sound came from, only to see that the one who caused it was Louise. Louise, what's going on here? Issei, well, you see, Louise, what happens is that. Siesta, we were just having fun. Louise, I see, you know that we accept you in the relationship, but this is not the place for that. Besides, I will be the first. Upon hearing that, Issei and Siesta react differently. On the one hand, Issei is shocked by Louise's recent statement, while on the other hand, Siesta gets a little angry. Siesta, you're wrong, Louise. I'll be the first. At that moment, they hear a loud bang which causes them to stop arguing and go see what happened. When Issei and Louise arrive at where the bang had occurred, they see several students and teachers gathered at the entrance to the principal's office. Issei, Professor Colbert, what happened? Colbert, I don't know, I also came to see, apparently there are thieves trying to get into the principal's office. At that, the director turns around and starts speaking. Director, guys, we know nothing, just an accident. Anise, everyone calmly return to your rooms. Teacher, but Osman-sama. Anise, didn't you hear what I said? I said come back. Teacher, the matter will be investigated by the gentleman, please withdraw. At that point, all the teachers and students who were watching start to go back to their rooms, somewhat frustrated at not knowing what was happening. Louise, Issei, wait, there's something I want to talk to you about. Issei, it's okay, Louise. Anise, wait, Issei, I would like to talk to you. Issei, what's going on? Anise, it has to do with our task, we will need your help. Issei, I'm sorry, could you go back first? Louise, but... Issei, don't worry, Louise, I'll take care of it, we'll talk later. Louise, okay, but don't be long. At that, Louise starts to leave towards her room while Issei follows Anise to the principal's office. When they all arrived, the principal started to talk to them. Director, the thief broke the safe when I wasn't around, but my relatives saw it and told me, right, Moto Sugunara? Flashback starts. We can see how someone has just destroyed the director's safe and how he rushed to his office to see what was happening, according to what his relative had told him. When he arrives, he can see how a thief was checking the safe for its contents. Director, who is it? The thief, realizing that she was discovered, quickly turns around to face the director. At that moment, she casts a spell that causes the ground to break, which makes the director step back. However, the director notices how the thief hides something between her enormous chest. Director, wow! It's big! But... At that point, the director throws a special seal that hits the thief's breasts, and, in doing so, leaves a magic mark on her. The thief, seeing the seal, gets scared and breaks the wall, then escapes through the hole she made. Flashback ends. At that, the teacher picks up the stamp which was still on the floor. Director, she is agile and has good reflexes, somehow she managed to escape from me. Issei, what did he keep in the safe? Director, the ruby of the wind and the ruby of the water. Issei, hey. Director, a few days ago Henrietta, His Majesty, asked me to keep them for him. Although there are good memories in them, the pain of remembering them is very great and very difficult to bear. Thank God the ones that were stolen were imitations. Gentlemen, imitations? Director, the genuine ones are no longer here. I have a friend in Ramalia who is taking care of them. Sir, is it okay to ask a foreigner to guard something so important for your Majesty? Director, at least it's safer than in the palace or the academy. Anise, no traces of anyone escaping from the academy or anyone entering the academy were found, which means the culprit is Julio, a spy. Anise, in that case, therefore I hope that Cesare and Issei can help us. Issei, no problem, but why did you order Louise to come back? Julio, the culprit uses earth magic, in other words all mages are suspects, Louise too. Issei, you are wrong, although it bothers me to admit it, Louise is not capable of using such powerful magic. Anise, I don't suspect Miss Valier, but the two who just arrived at the academy. Knight, the Valier royal family has always been against His Majesty's plans. They probably want to use the Wind Ruby and the Water Ruby to take revenge using the souls of Haita and Prince Wales to force His Majesty to abandon the throne. Issei, it can't be. Does this really involve Louise's two sisters? Anise, all mages are primarily suspicious, especially these earth mages who can create golems. They should be investigated. I will investigate the girls with Cesare. Michelle and Issei will investigate the teaching staff. Issei, but you said to investigate. Director, this seal is a magic tool that only I can use. Once printed, not even a triangle-level mage will be able to remove it. Anise, Issei, the culprit will have the seal printed here. At that, Anise points to where the seal mark that the director left on the ring thief should be on his chest. Anise, find that seal. In that, Anise and Julio leave to check the students, while a few minutes after they leave, Issei and Michelle begin to walk to investigate the teaching staff. While they were still walking, Issei had doubts about how to find the culprits, since to do so they would have to find the one who had the seal on her chest. But don't you hate going around asking to see their breasts? Issei, what can we do? Tell them to show us their breasts without further ado. At that, Michelle stops and turns to speak to Issei. Michelle, you will take care of the Valier sisters and I will take care of the rest of the staff. Issei, okay, but aren't we supposed to work together? Michelle, work together with you. We'll talk when your sword skills are at my level. Issei, then I think we won't talk since I don't think my abilities can decline that much. Upon hearing that, Michelle turns around to face Issei, but he had already left to investigate Louise's sisters, leaving Michelle angry. Now we can see how Issei was in front of the door of Eleanor's room. He was about to knock until suddenly he stopped, thinking about whether that would work. At that, Issei decides to sneak away. At that, Issei opens the door to Louise's sister's room and begins to approach Eleanor's bed. At that, he sees that she was still sleeping, so he decides to take advantage of that. He carefully uncovers her a little so as not to wake her up. At that, he sees that she was wearing a pink nightgown. At that, he approaches to unbutton the nightgown, but suddenly Eleanor moves and this causes Issei to tense up and decides to hide quickly. After a few moments, he looks again and notices that it did not have the mark. Issei, it seems that it doesn't have the mark. Eleanor, I hope you're very brave or very stupid to have done this. What brand are you referring to? Issei, sorry. Eleanor, you think a simple apology would be enough? At that, Issei starts to tremble but reacts quickly and runs away from that place to prevent Eleanor from hurting him. After having moved far enough away, he stops to catch his breath. After a few minutes, he heads to Katla's room, and when he was about to enter, he hears a voice that stops him. Unknown, Issei, what do you think you're doing in my sister's room? Issei, Louise, well, what happens is that. In that, Issei explains everything about what had happened with the robbery and the thief. Louise at first got angry because they suspected her sisters, but after a few minutes she calmed down and decided to help Issei. In that, both enter Katla's room, but when they were approaching, they are stopped by Katla's pets, which start to make noise, which causes Katla to wake up. Katla, what's going on? Why are you here, Louise? Louise, well, what happens, Chinisima, is that. At that, Louise proceeds to explain the whole situation to Katla, who, having understood everything, decides to cooperate, but Louise would be the one to check if she had the mark. After checking if Katla had the mark and seeing that she didn't, they apologize for waking her up and go to their room. Louise, Issei, we still have a pending talk. Issei, I know, Louise, and what do you want to talk about? Louise, well, the thing is. At that moment, they both hear a loud noise coming from Katla's room, so they both run off in that direction. When they arrive, they notice that the wall of Katla's room had been destroyed, and she was sitting on her bed coughing from the smoke. Louise, Chinisima. Katla, Louise, I'm fine. At that moment, they heard someone approaching from the crowd that had formed due to the chaos. Unknown, please let us pass. At that point, they noticed that the person approaching was Anise, who came to see what had happened. At that point, Anise approached where Katla was. Anise, sorry for being rude. He then approaches her and opens her nightgown to check if it had the mark. He sees that it was just a burn. Anise, it's just a burn, nothing serious. Is there anyone who can treat it? At that, Anise looks at the crowd and notices that the only one who raised her hand was Montmorency. Anise, please do it. Montmorency, yes. Anise, Michelle, please disperse the crowd. Michelle, yes. After all the students have returned to their rooms and made sure that there were no more problems, they proceed to question Katla about what had happened. Anise, so the thief attacked you suddenly? Katla, yes. The animals were making a lot of noise, so I asked who it was, and then. Anise, the burn on your chest? Katla, part of the candlestick was melted and the silver caused this burn because it fell on me. Louise, alchemy is earth magic. Anise, can you use that kind of magic too? Right. Katla, yes. Julio, it's a crime against oneself, right? At that, everyone turns to see where Julio was leaning. Louise, what do you mean? Anise, the culprit of what happened in the principal's office should have a mark on his chest. Based on this clue, we investigated the members of the academy who were suspects. Issei, how was the investigation regarding her? Julio, Miss Katla, who knew that she would be investigated sooner or later, faked the attack on herself to confuse others into thinking that the culprit was not her but someone else. She even hurt herself to cover up the mark, right? Issei, you are wrong. When we checked it, it did not have any marks and that was before the attack, so what you say is nothing more than a mistake. Julio, how did your investigation go? Julio, I've already finished off all the mages who are capable of using earth magic. Issei, everyone? How did you do that? Julio, Anise and I asked them to show us their breasts so we could check if they had the mark. Do you want more details? Issei, no thanks. Louise, come on, Chinisima, he couldn't have committed that crime. Then Michelle arrives. Michelle, Captain, I found them hidden among the straw mats. Issei, are those? Michelle, the wind ruby and the water ruby, the imitations. Louise, what are you referring to? Anise is then examining the situation, but suddenly Michelle speaks to him. Michelle, Captain? Anise, how do you explain this, Miss Katla? Katla, I don't know what to say. Anise, now we have proof. Louise, they must have made a mistake about something, Chinisima. You wouldn't be capable. Eleanor, Louise, keep your mouth shut. At that moment Eleanor approaches where they were. Katlia, one-sama. Louise, but Chinisima. Eleanor, the molten silver of the candlestick has solidified again. At that Eleanor bends down and picks up the piece of silver that belonged to the candlestick. When she picks it up, she notices that it had a hair stuck to it. Eleanor, this is a strand of Katlia hair or the culprit's. It doesn't appear to be Katlia hair. Michelle, what makes you think that? Eleanor, a friend of mine at this academy gave me this potion. At that Eleanor takes a bottle out of her pocket and pours a little of the liquid it contains on the hair, in which the hair floats. Eleanor will return to where she belongs. At that the hair goes to where Michelle was and joins her hair. Michelle, impossible. Are you trying to confuse us with some stupid magic and make me your victim? Captain, this woman is the accomplice. Please arrest her. Anise, but to prevent any misunderstanding regarding this, I'm sorry, but Michelle shows your chest to prove that there are no marks. Michelle, it can't be. Anise, I order you. Michelle, I will not follow such an insulting order. Anise, Michelle, in fact, the director knew the culprit was among us, but he lied. Those are imitations, these are the real ones. In that Anise shows 2 rings that she had in her hands. Michelle is surprised to see this, and this is noticed by Julio. Julio, why are you so surprised? Michelle, that's because. Anise, knowing that they are imitations after having done so much to steal them and using them to make Miss Katla look like the culprit, is something very stupid. Michelle, Captain, I'm not the thief, in that case I'll let you see. At that point, Michelle tears her shirt where the mark should be, and it turns out that she was the thief, since the mark was shining on her chest. At that point, she takes her sword and tries to attack Anise. Michelle, very slow. Issei, Ascalon? At that Issei summons Ascalon and blocks Michelle's attack. Louise, Issei. Michelle, demons, step aside. At that Michelle starts pushing harder. Issei, I think I already told you your level is lower than mine. In that Issei kicks him in the stomach, but Michelle blocks it and tries to cut Issei again, but he blocks her. Anise, Michelle, stop. Michelle, Captain, you suspected me from the beginning, right? Anise, I've always admired your work, but your background is unknown. At that, Michelle pushes Issei, which causes him to retreat. Michelle takes advantage of this to counterattack, but Issei blocks her. Issei, Derflinger. In that Issei summons Derflinger and attacks Michelle. With this, Michelle, having no way to defend herself, jumps back to dodge, but Issei takes advantage of this and attacks with Escalon and Derflinger, but Michelle stops both swords with her own using both hands. Worse, she didn't expect Issei to drop one of the swords and punch him in the stomach. And this caused Michelle to double over in pain, and Issei took advantage of this to kick her in the head, causing her to hit the wall, and she is very hurt by the strong blow. Anise, I trusted you, as a swordswoman, but with the things that happened again and again, including the culprit of the incident in the palace being the same person, I realized that the culprit should be a person who was by my side. At that, Michelle gets up, still in a little pain. Issei, give up, you have no chance against me. At that, Michelle turns towards the wall and destroys it with the ring and jumps over it to escape, but when she was running, it stops because a golem appears in front of it, and this causes her to turn around and see that the one who summoned the golem was Katla. Michelle, damn. At that, Michelle takes out a wand and casts a spell against Katla, who, upon seeing it coming towards her, was surprised and didn't know how to react, but at that issei reacts. Issei, boost gear cancel. In that, Katla and Eleanor see how Issei summoned a red gauntlet on his arm and decided the attack that was coming towards her, which surprised them since they thought that a commoner could not use magic, and after this, Anis takes out his gun and shoots Michelle's wand and hits it, causing it to break, and Michelle cannot use more magic. Katla, thank you. Issei, you're welcome. Anis, that's all, Michelle. At that, Anis goes to Michelle to arrest her, and meanwhile Eleanor approaches Katla. Eleanor, thank you for saving my sister Issei. Issei, it's nothing. Eleanor, now changing the subject, Katla, I've come to the conclusion that you won't be able to sleep here anymore, so I want you to move to my room. Katla, thanks Nisama. Eleanor, Louise, you should go to sleep too. It's not the time for children to go out and play. Louise, children? After that, Louise gets angry because they still think she's a child, even though she's willing to change if her plans go as she wants. Louise, gosh, my sisters really are. Issei, Louise, your sister is right. Let's go back to our rooms so we can finish talking. Louise, you're right. At that, Louise and Issei go to their room while Katla and Eleanor go to Eleanor's room, and Anis takes Michelle to interrogate her. Time jump. Now we can see Michelle sitting in a chair and Anis looking out the window. Michelle, I was the only one betrayed. 10 years ago, my father, who was a volunteer worker in a home, was stripped of his noble title and his royal position since he was accused of being the leader of a corruption. My father committed suicide after saying that he was deceived by his own country, and my mother followed him immediately. I was left alone without a home to return to. I wandered the streets doing everything possible to be able to continue living. Anis, I understand. Michelle, do you understand? Anis. The village where I lived was wiped out, and I was the only survivor. Michelle, who? Anis, even if that is the case, we should not be resentful towards His Majesty. Michelle, what has His Majesty done for me? With the help of Albion's power, as long as I don't exterminate this kingdom, the country will continue to rot until the end. Then Anis goes to where Michelle was, approaches her, and hits the table where Michelle was leaning. Anis, no! You should hate those who abuse their power and betray His Majesty. At that, Anis takes Michelle by the shirt and brings her closer to her. Anis, tell me, who ordered you to do these actions? Michelle, an old friend of my father, that's all I can say. Anis, friend? Michelle, if only he believed in my father's innocence, and gave a home to a homeless person like me. Anis, the director of Lishan Academy, huh? At that, Anis lets go of her and turns towards the inn. Anis, the incident 10 years ago, although the truth has not been revealed, the real culprit was Lishan. Michelle, what did you say? Anis, the person who forced your father to commit suicide was Lishan. Michelle, it's a lie. Stop talking nonsense. At that point, Michelle approaches Anis and makes her turn around to look her straight in the eyes. Anis, it's the truth. I've investigated everything about this person. In other words, Lishan has a deep hatred for us. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Issei and Louise are talking. Issei, well, Louise, what did you want to talk about? Louise, well, you see, what happens is that. Issei, come on, Louise, de mellow. Louise, it's about what you were doing with Siesta. Issei, what do you mean? Louise, you know that first time thing. Issei gets nervous upon hearing that. Issei, what are you getting at? Louise, I want us to do it. Issei, Issei, Louise, are you sure of what you're telling me? Louise, why yes, I talked to the girls and they let me be the first. At that point, Issei begins to approach where Louise was, who was nervous about the situation. At that point, Issei arrives where Louise was and takes her chin and makes her look him directly in the eyes. Issei, Louise, do you really want to do this? Louise, yes, I love you, Issei. Lemon skipped. Issei, I love you, Louise. Louise, I love you too, Issei. Finally, I hope you liked it. Chapter 25, Vacation in Tristein. We can see how Captain Ennis is heading to Queen Henrietta's office while on the way someone was coming to see her, who was an old man with religious clothes. He passes by Ennis, but she doesn't pay attention to him and continues on her way. After a few minutes she arrives at where Her Majesty was. Then she enters. Ennis, excuse me, Ennis from Milan is here to meet your Majesty. Henrietta, have you finished the investigation into the matter? Ennis, yes, this is the investigation report. At that, Ennis approaches where the princess was and gives her a black folder which the princess receives and begins to read. Henrietta, is this what they meant by troublemaker? Ennis, do I have permission to arrest them and let justice take care of them? Henrietta, no, to punish a high-ranking officer, a testimony from the vice-captain of the weapons squadron will not be enough. Let's use that plan. Ennis, but that plan has high risk for His Majesty's life. Henrietta, don't worry about that, I'll have a layered bodyguard. After the talk with Queen Henrietta, Ennis leaves the place. Now we can see her riding a horse towards the town. Ennis, thinking, I am grateful for your kindness, your Majesty, but having that faith in a commoner like me allowing me to take revenge. In that, Ennis begins to remember how her town was destroyed and burned by some scoundrels who also killed everyone except her. Meanwhile, in another place, we can see how Issei and Louise were walking in the town since Ennis had requested them for a mission. Roswise stayed to take care of Louise's sisters in case something happened in her absence. They were walking through the square towards Madame's tavern. While Issei came normally, Louise was very happy since she was finally able to give herself to her beloved, in addition to having enjoyed it a lot. Issei, in the end we came back. Louise, yes, let's hurry to where we should meet. Issei, yes. Hey Louise. Louise, yes, Issei, what's going on? Issei, why are you so happy? Louise, because I was the first to be with you. Issei, I see. Louise, come on, let's hurry up. At that, Louise starts pulling Issei's arm to get there first, and when they finally get to the tavern they stop for a few seconds before entering to breathe because of what was coming. After a few seconds they enter, but upon entering they can see all the girls with elegant dresses and Madame with a long dress and a purple wig, and they see Madame's daughter dressed as a man. Madame, good, 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 excellent, my little devils. In that the boys can see how Madame's girls were posing while he was praising them. Louise, hello? Issei, it's been a while, Madame. At that moment, Madame and her girls continued doing their thing, making different poses, while Issei and Louise just watched from a distance everything that was happening. At that moment, Madame's daughter approached them. Daughter, what's wrong with them that they fall so suddenly? Issei, well, we are waiting for someone. Louise, by the way, why are you wearing those costumes? Daughter, has this? At that she points to the suit she is wearing as a gentleman. Daughter, tonight we'll be doing a performance called Vacances Tristein. Issei, huh? Louise, eh? Madam, we will let the world know our beauty. At that, Issei and Louise could only watch in shame what was happening, and Louise turns to see a poster in which Madame and her daughter were. Louise, are you sad? Madam, yes, perfect, you two will also be on stage, since we lack human resources. Madam, very well, my little devils, it's time to open the store. Are you ready? All yes. My madam. Louise, Madam, why are you standing there? Shouldn't you be helping out in the store? Issei, no, Louise, we are on an important mission. Madam, stop talking so much. Issei, you're going to the kitchen. Louise, you're going with the others to put on your costume. Okay, quick. Quick. All yes. At that point, all the girls surround Louise and take her to put on her costume, while Madame's daughter pulls Issei to the kitchen. After a few minutes, we can see Louise in her white fairy costume, while all the girls look at her and find her pretty. Time jump, now we can see how the tavern is full of people and everyone is working while Issei is at the bar serving. Then Louise approaches him. Louise, Issei, don't you think we should find Ennis? Issei, yes, but she said we would meet here, so we just have to wait. Then Madame arrives to where they were. Madame, Louise, someone is asking you. Louise, yes, I'm going. At that, Louise leaves, leaving Issei alone at the bar. When she gets to where Madame was calling her, she runs into Julio, who was the one who was calling him. Louise, you? Julio, hey Louise. At that moment, Julio invites Louise to sit where he was and they begin to talk while they were observed and spied on by Issei, who, thanks to his enhanced dragon senses, could hear everything they were talking about without any problems. Julio, hey, this view is nice. At that moment, Julio gets closer to Louise, which makes her feel uncomfortable. At that moment, Louise looks at Issei, who was serving a customer, but suddenly, Julio approaches Louise's ear and says something to her. Julio, actually, I also came to this store because a few years ago she called me to wait for her here. While with Issei he was calm because even though Julio whispered he could still hear what he said, so he didn't worry too much because he approached him like that. After several minutes we can see at Julio's table all the girls who worked at the tavern sitting with a glass in their hands toasting for anything. Louise, how many times do you plan to toast? Julio, as many times as I want as long as I'm happy. Julio, cheers! Girls, cheers! Before these actions Louise can only sigh and watches Issei as he was working. Julio, this store is great. Time skip. Now we can see how Issei was taking out the trash through the back of the store. It had already gotten very dark. Issei, thinking, so he was also called by Anise, it must be very important. At that, Issei leaves the box he was carrying on the floor, and then when he gets up again someone bumps into him and he falls to the floor. Issei, are you okay? Unknown, I would like to ask you, is there a shop nearby called Nuevo Devils? At that, Issei takes him by the hands and helps him get up. Issei, hey? Is this the store? Issei, that voice? Unknown, that voice? In that, both of them see each other's faces and Issei can see that the hooded person who had collided with him was the princess. At the same time, the princess could see that the person who had collided with him was Issei. Unknown, search over there. The princess, upon hearing that they were still looking for her, covers Issei's mouth, takes him by the hand and begins to pull him against the wall so that they cannot be seen. Guard 1, they must have escaped in that direction. Guard 2, quick. When the guards leave and leave them alone, Issei begins to pull the princess's hand. They both enter the tavern in the room area. After a few minutes, they were already inside Issei's room and the princess sits on the bed. Issei, although I don't understand what really happened, I should still call Louise first. Princess, wait Issei, I'm here to ask for your help. Issei, what's wrong, princess? Princess, please Issei, be my bodyguard for a while. Issei, why me? Shouldn't the princess be with the royal guard? Princess, I'm on a secret mission, that's why I need your help, so there's no other way. Issei, I see why you want us to wait here, right? At that, the princess nods her head, which leaves Issei thinking for a few seconds. Issei, okay, I accept since it's the princess's request. The princess, upon hearing that Issei would help her, couldn't help but smile. Princess, then let's leave now. The soldiers from before will search here at any moment. We shouldn't stay in one place for too long, it's not safe. Issei, would it be possible for you to get me some clothes that make me look like a commoner? Issei, yes. At that, Issei started to look through his things and Louise's and could only find her uniform. Issei, there's only Louise's uniform. Princess, that will be fine. At that, Issei turns around to give the uniform to the princess, but when he did, he could see how the princess was naked. When Issei saw her, he couldn't help but blush. Princess, thank you Issei, the shirt please. At that, Issei hands the shirt to the princess, and she begins to put it on, all of this being observed by Issei, who couldn't help but think that the princess was really beautiful. Princess, the shirt seems to be a little small. At that, the princess begins to move from one side to another with the uniform, which was tight since she was more developed than Louise. Issei. Seeing this, he couldn't help but let a drop of blood come out of his nose, which was noticed by the princess, and this caused her to blush at the way Issei saw her. Meanwhile, downstairs in the tavern, the girls and Julio are still toasting and drinking beer, while Louise is lying on the table. Louise, sad-faced, thinking, Annie's hasn't arrived yet. At that, Madame approaches the table where all the little devils who were not working were to give them a warning. Madam, my devils, tonight the store will close early due to the performance. At that, all the girls get up and start closing the store and saying goodbye to the last people. Julio, is it over so early? Let's keep toasting. Louise, pick up everything. What is this? Is there still no sign of her? Issei. At that, Louise turns to see Issei but is surprised to see that he wasn't working. Louise, Issei? Meanwhile, in the streets of Trine, all the guards were interviewing all the people while looking for the princess while they were checking the Issei people, and the princess was in an alley waiting for the opportunity to pass. Issei, security seems to have increased. Princess, security received an investigation report stating that the daughter of royalty has been kidnapped. Issei, that means they're looking for you, princess, right? What do we do, princess? Princess, it would be very suspicious if we hide our faces. Issei, please put your arms on my shoulders. At that moment, the guards were finishing checking the people and they saw how Issei passed by and hugged the princess who was not recognized. While they were walking, all the guards looked at them. It is worth mentioning that the princess had a slight blush and a smile on her face. Issei, it seems that we attract a lot of attention. Princess, let's continue this way. Issei, but... At that, the princess hugs Issei's arm more, which causes him to leave his hand between her breasts, which causes Issei to get a little nervous and squeeze his hand a little, and at the same time squeezes the princess's breast, which causes her to let out a slight moan that he liked. After a few minutes of continuing like this, the guards let them pass and they go to check the other streets around. Meanwhile, in another place far from there, we can see how Anise was in front of a mansion on a horse, and she was under the rain watching everything in silence. Anise, please tell Lishaman-sama that Anise, the captain of Her Majesty's weapons squadron, is here to see him. It is an important matter and must be dealt with immediately. Moments later we can see Anise waiting in a room while watching the fire and remembering her past, all until this is interrupted by someone entering the room. Unknown, is this an important matter? To have the captain of the weapons squadron personally present in court, I suppose it's not a simple matter. While the person was saying this, he approached Anise, who was near the fire waiting. Anise, His Majesty is lost. Unknown, what? Has she been kidnapped again? Anise, the investigation is still ongoing. Unknown, didn't something similar happen recently? Wasn't the weapons squad formed to demonstrate their incapacities? At that, the stranger hits the table. Anise, you should note that we are working hard on Your Majesty's search at this time. We wish to have permission to impose a curfew and the closure of the ports. At that, the stranger raises his cane and it begins to shine. Then, one of the feathers that were behind Anise begins to shine as well. After a few moments, it flies very close and dangerously to Anise until it reaches the stranger's hands. Upon receiving it, he begins to write the permit for the curfew and the closure of the ports. Unknown, do whatever it takes to find His Majesty, otherwise, before the law, I will judge you all in court and give you the death penalty. Anise, yes? At that, Anise begins to leave the room while the stranger pours himself a glass of wine, but suddenly this is interrupted by Anise. Anise, yes, Your Excellency. Unknown, what happens now? Anise, I am conducting an investigation into the Protestantism incident, and it seems that Your Excellency was involved in the incident 20 years ago. Was Your Excellency the one who ordered the Dangudio massacre? Unknown massacre? Don't make it sound so bad. The commoners of that town were plotting to overthrow the kingdom. That was reason to suppress them. Anise, suppress them? I see. I've investigated the matter, and there's no record. Your Excellency, you must know the person who led the suppression squad. Unknown, how could I remember such small details like that? Finding His Majesty is more important than matters from 20 years ago. Anise, I understand. At that, Anise leaves, leaving the stranger alone. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, we can see Louise, hooded, running through the streets in the rain, looking for Issei. Louise, Issei, where are you? Meanwhile, elsewhere, Issei and the princess were in a room sheltering from the rain and the guards. Issei, is this room okay for you? Princess, yes. At that, Issei starts looking out the window. Issei, it seems like it won't stop raining soon, it would be best to stay here. Then he turns to see the princess, and notices how she was shivering from the cold, and approaches her. Issei, are you okay, princess? Princess, I'm cold, please hug me. At that, Issei slowly approaches the princess and surrounds her with his arms and pulls her towards his chest. The princess, seeing how Issei hugged her, blushed and was very happy, since for her this was very warm. But after a few minutes like that, they are interrupted by the knock on the door. Guards, open up, it's the royal guard. Hurry up and open the door. Issei, princess. Guard, due to an important matter, I will use force to open it. Princess, we can't do anything. Issei, princess. At that, Issei notices how the princess takes off her shirt, leaving her torso bare, and kisses Issei while she puts her arms around his neck, while Issei, noticing what she did, couldn't help but also hug her and bring her towards him. While this was happening, the guards opened the door, but when they entered and saw what they were doing, they became ashamed and closed the door and apologized. While in another place we can see Anise spying on Lishaman's residence. She could see how she was talking to a person who, after a few minutes of conversation, left on horseback, and Anise decided to follow him. After a while of following him on horseback, she enters a store in the city, and Anise follows him secretly, but is seen by Louise, who decides to follow her. Louise, Anise? As I guessed, it's Anise. Then Louise goes to where Anise is. Louise, what are you doing in a place like this? There are many real soldiers around here. What exactly happened? Anise, that I don't have time to explain it to you now, come with me. At that, Anise takes Louise's hand and starts pulling her to follow her. Louise, wait. Anise ignored Louise and just kept running while pulling her. Then they enter the Devil's Tavern. Anise notices how the person she was following was on the second floor of the place. Then they also go up and see how the person stops in front of a door and knocks while they were hiding. Louise, what's going on? Anise, keep quiet. Then they see an old man opening the door where the subject had previously knocked. Subject, the gentleman is waiting for your arrival at the theater as always. It seems that His Majesty has been kidnapped by someone. At that, Louise lets out a small squeal that alerts them, and this makes them say goodbye and close the door. Anise, seeing that the guy was coming towards them to protect her identity, kisses Louise, and the guy, as he passes by them, just ignores them. After the guy leaves, Anise follows him out, and at the same time Louise follows her. Louise, what did you do? Anise, it's a mission. Louise, mission? In that, Anise explains everything to Louise. Meanwhile, in another part we can see how Issei and the princess were lying in the same bed with their backs turned. Issei, why did you do it? Princess, in order to lure out the one who is betraying us, I have spread the news that I was kidnapped. But I am not sure that the guilty person will easily fall for the fake news. That is why I escaped for real. Issei, that was very dangerous. Princess, that's why I wanted you to be my bodyguard. I wanted you to protect me. I wanted you to protect me like you protect Louise. At that, Issei turns around and hugs the princess, which causes her to blush. He approaches her ear and says, Issei, I will always protect you since you are someone important to me. The princess, upon hearing this, couldn't feel very happy because she cared about him, and this caused a tear of happiness to come out. Issei, but don't fool me again. At that, the princess sits on the bed with a smile. Princess, yes, but doesn't lying to your enemies also mean lying to your allies? Issei, it's okay. Princess, come on, it's time. Issei, what about? Princess, it's time to go to the theater. Meanwhile, elsewhere, we can see Anise on a horse chatting with Louise. Louise, so Issei is protecting the princess? Anise, yes, Issei is necessary to be the princess's bodyguard. Louise, what is this? Am I supposed to just follow him? Anise, it's not that. Anyway, until the mission ends, stay in this store until you receive orders. Louise, wait, where are you going? Anise, to the theater. At that, Anise heads off towards the theater, leaving Louise alone there until someone speaks to her from behind. Unknown, hey Louise, what are you doing? The performance is about to start. Time jump, now we are in the theater starting the presentation of the play. Unknown, the guests who will be performing tonight are us, the Skara performance group. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, we can see everyone preparing to go out and perform. Madam, everyone hurry up. Unknown, we will perform a comedy story. In that Louise can see how Issei was there watching behind the curtain. Louise, Issei. Issei, Louise. Louise, aren't you supposed to be with His Majesty? Issei, we weren't together until now he's with Anise. Louise, Anya? Madam, what are you two doing there? Now it's your turn to leave. Now we find ourselves watching the performance. Madam, what is this here? Daughter, it's called the Mouth of Lies. If a liar sticks his hand in it, he won't be able to get it out. Madam, no, what should I do? Daughter, why don't you try it? Madam, no, I'm scared. I'm scared. While in the audience we can see Lissaman talking to the person from before who had spoken to the envoy of this. Unknown, so the princess is missing? Lissaman, that's right, it hasn't been found yet. Unknown, this is our chance to invade. Lissaman, apparently His Majesty's whereabouts are unknown. Princess, this here. Lissaman, he? At that they turn around and can see the princess with the royal army next to her. Princess, I've heard everything you said, Lissaman. Lissaman, Your Majesty. Princess, I assumed that he would contact his friend when I disappeared and the truth would emerge. Lissaman, a cunning fox revealing his tail, the fact that I was kidnapped was just a plan to get me out of hiding. Princess, that's exactly right. Princess, Director of the Lissaman Court, you are under arrest for treason. In that, all the strength that the princess had is revealed, while all this was observed by Louise and Issei. Louise, Princess. Princess, now the show is over, Lissaman. Lissaman, oh really? You're very naive, Henrietta. At that point all the troops that Lissaman brought revealed themselves. Royal guards, protect your highness. Lissaman, ignore him and finish them all. At that point, the princess's forces and Lissaman's forces begin to fight, while all the civilians flee the place and Lissaman's accomplice also tries to escape, but he trips and falls to the ground because Julio put his foot there so he would fall. Julio, an Albion pawn, huh? I'll have to arrest him for espionage. While the princess was in the middle of the fight, she was afraid because she could not defend herself. Enemy knight, prepare your majesty. At that moment, a knight from Lissaman rushes to attack her. Issei, Ascalon. Then Issei appears with Ascalon in his hand, blocking the enemy guard's attack. Then Issei pushes harder, causing the guard to fall. Issei, are you okay, princess? Princess Issei. In that they see how Lissaman is fleeing and on the way he pushes Louise. Lissaman, get lost. At that point, Lissaman gets on stage. Issei, Louise. Princess Lissaman. Lissaman, we'll see you next time. At that, Lissaman hits the ground with his staff, which causes a trapdoor in the floor to open and he falls through it. Lissaman, thinking, this is my theater, the escape routes have already been planned. At that point, Lissaman reaches the end of the tunnel and casts a spell to fall carefully, but when he was about to start moving, someone spoke to him from behind. Anise, wait, where do you think you're going, Lissaman? Lissaman, it's you, a commoner like you won't be able to capture me. Anise, I have no intention of capturing him. At that Anise draws his weapon and points it at the Lissaman. Anise, I'll kill you. Lissaman, what? Anise, you planned the fall of Dangudiel, my hometown was totally destroyed. Lissaman, I see you are the only survivor of that place. Anise, now it's time for revenge. Lissaman, I'll end your life with a single blow. Let me tell you, the records of Dangudiel, which you are looking for, are in the basement of the Magic Academy. At that moment, Anise is surprised by what Lissaman just said and he doesn't like it, so he takes the opportunity to attack her. Lissaman, naive. In that, Lissaman generates a fire attack which causes a fire in the place. Lissaman believes that he killed her. Lissaman, how useless. At that, Lissaman notices that something is moving in the fire. Lishaman, what? At that, Anise comes out of the fire directly to attack Lishaman, and she stabs him with her sword directly in the chest. Lishaman, impossible. Anise, these are the fangs I've been saving, just to, someday, take revenge on royal bastards like you, now die at the hands of the Lishaman fangs. At that, Lissaman falls dead and Anise leaves the place, leaving Lissaman's body to be consumed by the flames that he himself created earlier. Time jump. The battle is over and we can see how all the guards who supported Lissaman and are still alive are arrested for treason while on one side of the theater Louise and Issei were talking. Louise, and what did you do with the princess while you were alone? Issei, I did nothing, I just protected her while following her. Louise, I see. At that, Louise approaches Issei and smells him and notices that he had the princess's scent on his body. Issei, what are you doing? Louise, this is the scent of the princess's perfume. Is there a need to be intimate with her while you were protecting her? Don't tell me you did something to Her Majesty. In this, Issei remembers when the princess kissed him and he reciprocated in addition to everything she had told him. Issei, you're wrong, Louise. That's because she hugged me so the guards wouldn't discover her while we were crossing the city streets. Louise, I see. Issei, by the way, what have you been doing? Louise, he. At that, Louise remembers the kiss she had earlier with Anise. Louise, nah, nothing. Issei, I see, I trust you. At that, Issei approaches her and gives Louise a short kiss on the lips. Chapter 26, The Lost Library. We can see how the princess is in her meeting room with the Pope of the Church. Both were talking about a topic that could alter the future of Tristan. Princess, official declaration of war. Dad, today I request that you send the army. Dad, the officers all agree with the declaration of war. Our allies in Germany have already declared war. We are all waiting for His Majesty's official decision. Minister of Defense, Your Majesty. Preparations for attacking Albion have been completed. We now await your orders. Princess Bishop Madeline, do you want war? Bishop, no, just that I understand what Your Majesty thinks and feels. Princess, so? Bishop, but the majority of citizens want Albion to be defeated. If the declaration of war is postponed further, a coup d'état will form. Princess, coup d'état? Bishop, in the worst case, His Majesty will also be forced to resign. The royal palace will have no power if that happens. Princess, even if it ends like this, I will never declare war. Defensa, Your Majesty. At that, the bishop raises his arm as a sign to calm down and let him speak. Bishop, if the instigators take control of the government and the royal army, that will cause the war to spread. There will be no one who can stop them. If His Majesty directs the war personally, the war could be restricted to minimal destruction. Although I know it will be painful for His Majesty, I hope he makes the wisest decision. Princess, Bishop Madeline, Minister Bawachi. Both, yes. Princess I, Henrietta, as leader of Tristan, give permission to begin the attack on Albion. At that, Henrietta signs the declaration that the bishop had left on his desk so that he could begin the attack on Albion. Time jump. Now we can see how the townspeople celebrated the victory that Tristan and their ally Germania had had over the enemy troops of Albion. While they were celebrating, Issei, Louise and Rosweiss were walking through the city. At that point, Louise saw a poster that was stuck on a wall where they were told how the battle had ended. Villager, we were victorious. Villager 2, long live Tristan. Villager 3, we beat Albion. Louise, look, we were victorious in the first battle. Issei, and what does that say? Louise, a week after war was declared, the combined forces of Tristan and Germania, an estimated 500 platoons, encountered enemy forces before reaching Albion, dealing a heavy blow to the enemy, eliminating their forces. Casualties on our side are minimal, so it says. Then, when Louise finishes reading, she sees Issei and Rosweiss leave with a disinterested attitude. She follows them in a strange way. Louise, what's wrong? Tristan won the battle. Aren't you happy about that? Rosweiss, didn't Your Majesty oppose the war? Louise, that in fact she was opposed, but the enemy is Albion, We have to fight against them no matter how. Her Majesty must have felt very bad before making that decision. Rosweiss, is that really the case? At that, Louise gets a little depressed by what Rosweiss had just told her. Besides that, she wasn't sure if everything that was happening was good. Issei and Louise see how Rosweiss stopped seeing a store in it. You could notice a school uniform from Issei's world hanging in the store. Issei, what's happening, Rosweiss? Rosweiss, look, it's a school uniform. Issei, you're right. Louise, why does it surprise you so much? Rosweiss, it brings back memories of when I was a teacher at Issei's academy. Issei, I still remember those moments. Louise, and what are the academies like in your world? Issei, well. In that, Issei and Rosweiss tell Louise what school was like in their world, and that Louise found it strange that in her world humans couldn't use magic, and that she was surprised by how different they were. In that, Issei thinks that the uniform is more comfortable and allows more mobility, so he decides to buy it to give it to Siesta so that she has something more comfortable. Meanwhile, elsewhere, now we are back at the academy where Anise was walking angrily through the academy until she meets someone. Anise, His Majesty gave me permission. Heavens do not understand me. July, Anise. At that moment, Julio approaches where Anise was to talk. Julio, what happened? Anise, that's it. Time jump. Now we find ourselves all gathered together talking about what just happened to Anise. Issei, a secret underground library? Anise, there is a place under the academy where secret documents are kept. I have obtained permission from His Majesty to browse the contents of the books there. Anise, but Director Osmond said that he had not received any order to open the doors of the place, therefore he refused to open it. Louise, despite having received permission from His Majesty? Julio, it must be dangerous, since it is a place from thousands of years ago. It must be full of traps. It seems to have an anti-theft magic that protects it. Julio, just entering would put your life at risk. Anise, I'm a gentleman. I'm not afraid of danger. Rosweiss, Anise, what is the document you want to see so much? Anise, that's it regarding the grudges I've held for so many years. Issei, grudges? Louise, grudges? Julio, it's natural to help your friend when it's necessary. I called them because that's what I think. Issei, friends? Julio, more than just friends, you are even more than my best friends. What Julio mentioned gave everyone present a slight chill. Julio, Louise, since you are able to use exceptional magic, I suppose opening the lock will not be a problem, right? Louise, it might work if I use void magic, but if we don't concentrate it might not work. Rosweiss, what Louise says is true, although she helps her with her magic, which has already improved compared to this one, I don't think it's best to entrust the task to her. It would be best to look for someone with more experience. Anise, then why don't one of you two do it? Issei, although it sounds good since we can use magic, the one I use is for combat, and it is also dragon-type magic, so I don't think it will work. Rosweiss, and even though I know how to use magic for something else, I don't think my magic is useful to counteract that type of spells because I use Nordic magic. Anise, I see, then it would be best to look for someone who can help us and be able to use the magic here without problems. Julio, I know, why don't we ask Lisa's sister for help? Louise, I don't think Eleanorissima will help us. Issei, we don't lose anything by asking. Anise, you're right, let's go. Time jump. Now we find ourselves where Louise Eleanor's sister works, who is working with alchemy-type magic. Eleanor, open a lock? Anise, yes please. Eleanor, I think I could. Eleanor, okay, I'll help you. Meanwhile, in another place we can see how Siesta is trying on the clothes that Issei gave her. Siesta, I like the clothes Issei gave me, they are more comfortable than usual. Siesta, also, I think that if I use this thing that he chose for me, I'll be able to advance more with him. While she was going down the stairs to see Issei, she heard someone talking that seemed familiar to her. Issei, where are you bringing us? Siesta, seeing that it was Issei who was speaking, decides to follow him to talk to him and see what he was doing. Siesta, Issei? Why would he be entering the women's bathroom with the others? Meanwhile, with the others, they had reached a hidden door that was past the women's bathroom. Anise, this is the entrance. At that, Anise opens the door, and you see that on the other side of it there was a brick wall. Suddenly you see how Anise approaches one and begins to push. While Anise does this, a secret door opens that reacted to the switch that Anise activated. After the door was opened, they saw a dark cave descending. They entered the place and set it on fire with Julio's magic. Louise, this is weird. They could have burned it instead of hiding it here. Eleanor, how could they throw away the royal documents? Even if they can't throw them away, it's not good to expose them to the public. This has been the contradictory way governments have operated for thousands of years. When they reach the end of the route, they see that there was a large stone door with some strange symbols that worked as a lock. Upon seeing them, Eleanor takes out some special glasses that she uses to analyze them. After a few minutes, she finishes. Eleanor, the lock is made up of 3 groups. Eleanor, it's easy for every lock, but it won't open if the combination is wrong. Anise, so do you understand how it's done? At that, Eleanor raises her wand and points it at the door where the locks were and begins to recite a spell. Eleanor, lock. Here's the key. Open it. When they finish reciting their spell, they see how the locks begin to shine one by one and open, allowing them to enter the place. Louise, you did it! Just as expected from Wani-sama. Anise, I'm grateful for that. From now on, I'll go alone. Julio, I'm sorry, but we don't accept that. The fun has just begun, right? Eleanor, I opened the lock because I want to see what's inside. There could be records of secret magical experiments from the past. Anise, but it will be dangerous. Rosweiss, we can't let you go alone because it's dangerous. At that, Anise observes how no one would take a step back to leave and accepts their help. Anise, in that case, let's go. Before they could get going, they heard someone speaking to them from behind. Unknown, where do you think you're going? At that, everyone turns around to see who was responsible for the voice. Issei, Professor Colbert. Colbert, Anise, the director has already rejected your request. Anise, cowardly responses are unacceptable. At that, Anise turns around and quickly enters the place. Colbert, Anise. At that point, the rest also run away chasing Anise. Colbert, you guys wait. Then the teacher, seeing that they didn't pay attention to him, chased them. Time jump. They've been walking around the place for a while now, and Professor Colbert has also joined them in the search. Colbert grudges, you say? Issei, yes, that's what Anise told us. Anise, if our army manages to restrict the port of embarkation of Albion, His Majesty will personally go to the front. I will follow along the course, but before that, I want to resolve this matter. Louise, will your Majesty go to the front? Anise, yes, he said that since he signed the declaration of war, causing the army to risk their lives fighting, he can't afford to ignore what's happening by staying in a safe place. Louise, Princess. Colbert, so what enemy is Anise referring to? Anise, wait, someone is following us. At that, everyone stops in the same place they were standing. They turn around and start to hear footsteps coming from behind them. At that, Anise moves forward a little with the flashlight to be able to see better, and then Issei, Rosweiss, and Louise recognized the person who was coming by the uniform she was wearing. It turned out to be Siesta, the one who was following them. Siesta, Issei. Issei, nap? Siesta, I'm wearing the suit you gave me. During that nap, while she was running to where they were, she turned around showing how the sailor uniform looked on her, which caused a slight blush to the men present. Siesta, and how is Issei looking? Who, I thought Issei was alone. I didn't expect everyone to be here. Louise, that's the suit you bought her, right? Issei, you look good, nap. Siesta, thanks Issei. In that, Siesta grabs Issei's arm, making Rosweiss and Louise jealous of her actions, but since Louise wouldn't be left behind by a maid, she takes Issei's other arm. Siesta, in Issei's hometown all the girls wear clothes like this. Julio, by the way, you have traveled from a very far away country to here, right? Issei had gotten a little nervous since Julio and Anise didn't know where he came from and Rosweiss only knew that he was Louise's relative, and he wasn't interested in telling them where he was from at the moment. Issei, if that's the case. Siesta, then he said that since I look like him it would look good on me so he gave it to me. Ines, well, it would be best to move on. At that everyone starts moving again, but Issei notices how Rosweiss was angry because she didn't reach to take one of Issei's arms, and seeing this Issei separates from the girls to walk normally and lets them advance a little and then approaches where Rosweiss was and he touches her shoulder to get her attention. When she turns around he gives her a kiss on the lips that lasted a few seconds and then separates, leaving Rosweiss blushing by the actions of her boyfriend. Rosweiss, why was that? Issei, I don't like seeing you angry, so I thought that might cheer you up. Rosweiss, thank you. In that, Issei gives another quick kiss to Rosweiss, and then both catch up with the group that was leaving them behind. When they get back to the group, Siesta and Louise were mad at Issei because he didn't kiss them and he did kiss Rosweiss. When he noticed it, he approached each of them and gave them a kiss, which left them a slight blush. After that they returned to normal and the three were happy for their boyfriend's actions. Julio, Issei, did girls participate in the war in your home? Issei, who? Julio, that's an army uniform, right? Issei, you're wrong, in my hometown it's an academy uniform, there's no need for boys and girls to participate in wars. Colbert, I would love to visit your city if it were ever possible. Issei, and what is the reason for that, Professor Colbert? Colbert, I envy a country without war. Issei, it's not without wars really. Colbert, seeing young people participating in wars and sacrificing their lives hurts me too. Anise, these are times of war. Guiding them to fight for their country is the duty of teachers like you, isn't it? Colbert, that's absurd. You're only saying that because you haven't seen the true face of war. If you had seen the cruelty of war. Issei, Professor, have you seen her? Colbert, no, it's just that. Anise, I saw it, in the village where I was born, when it was destroyed by the army. More than a war, I would call it a massacre. Rosweiss, it can't be. Anise, it was 20 years ago. They used the excuse that it was a refuge for rebels. The extermination of the religious leaders began. In fact, everything was planned by Ishiman. Anise, that man managed to eliminate the rebels, and because he eliminated them he received a position. Because of that my family, my friends, everyone died. Innocent people were burned to death. I am the only survivor who was rescued from there. Colbert, in other words, your grudges. Anise, even if I killed Lissaman with my own hands, the person who committed those acts must be free somewhere. I want to know his identity. Louise, the records of that incident are kept here, right? After that, everyone sets off again. After a while, they notice how a light could be seen ahead. Siesta, hey? It looks like there's light there. When everyone sees the end of the tunnel, they all start running to get there first. When it arrives, they can see how the library was up ahead, but there was a great abyss that separated them, but this was connected by a stone bridge. July, this place. Siesta, looking down and seeing how deep it was, gets scared and hugs Issei, who reciprocates and begins to gently caress his head. Issei, calm down. I won't let anything happen to you. Louise and Rosweiss feel jealous when they see him, but they calm down as Issei approaches them and hugs them both by the waist, which causes each of them to blush slightly. At that point, they all start walking towards the library. Colbert, Anise. Anise, yes? Colbert, what are you trying to do after finding out that man's name? Anise, is it necessary to ask? Colbert, so what do you plan to do after you get revenge? Anise, fight for His Majesty until death, that will be. Upon hearing this, Professor Colbert just sighs at Anise's attitude. Colbert, after all, you are the only survivor. Are you going to dedicate your precious life to revenge and go to war? Colbert, have you been in love before? Anise, what does it say? Colbert, falling in love, you're still young. Don't you feel there's something more important than fighting for it? At that, Anise looks at Issei out of the corner of her eye without anyone noticing, and she blushes a little, but after realizing what she is doing she gets angry and changes her attitude. Anise, that's stupid. I don't have time to talk to you. Meanwhile, the girls were talking in the back. Siesta, I heard a rumor that Captain Anise likes girls. Louise, hey? I knew it. In that, Louise remembers when Innes kissed her in the tavern while they were spying on that guy. After arriving at the entrance of the library, they see that there was something written on the entrance, but Innes ignores it and tries to enter. Rosweiss, wait, there's something written there. Eleanor, editing documents, destroying or deleting them, as well as the use of magic, is prohibited. Louise, is it not allowed to use magic? Eleanor, Louise, first of all, you don't know how to use it, so it shouldn't be a problem for you, right? Upon hearing this, Louise only gets angry for not being able to tell Louise the whole truth and for still considering her useless. Eleanor, the person who disobeys the rules will be cursed to death. Well, that's just to scare people. Then they see how the doors of the library open, which surprises everyone since none of them had opened it. Julio, it's incredible. It's like the religious library of Ramalia. Rosweiss, by the way, why is there so much information that needs to be hidden? Louise, where is the document that Innes is looking for? Innes, it's one from 20 years ago. The ones in this part are the most recent ones. At that point, everyone starts searching all over the back of the library in the written records. While they were searching, Louise found a rare book. Louise, Dangudiel incident? This isn't it. At that, Louise throws the book back. Innes, that's the one. Innes then jumps to catch the book. When Innes grabs it, she goes and sits on the stairs and starts reading. While she was reading, the rest were organizing the books they had taken out during that siesta. She was walking with too many books in her hands, but there were too many, and then she falls, which causes Eleanor to scold her for causing disasters. Eleanor, commoner, don't touch it if you don't know what it is. Siesta, sorry. Eleanor, really? At that point, Eleanor starts using magic to put the books where they belong. Nap, Eleanor, what? Siesta, you just used magic. At that point, the whole library starts to shake, which makes everyone upset. Issei, this is bad, the anti-theft magic is still active. Louise, good heavens, One-isama. Don't you know that magic must be used at the right place and time? Eleanor, stop talking and run. Innes, wait, here it is. The Crete order, to prevent the spread of the plague, the people of Dangudiel will be burned. Innes, plague? At that point, all the walls begin to compress. Julio, come on, we have to get out of here. Colbert, anyway, we have to get out of here. Innes, wait, I haven't found the captain's name. Issei, seeing that the walls were approaching and that the rest had already left, returns to where Innes and Professor Colbert were. Issei, come on Innes, we have to go out. Innes, I found it. A special military group is formed to fight the plague, and the captain is nothing. The part that contained the name was torn off. Innes, why? Issei, let's go. Issei takes Innes's hand and starts pulling her out of there. Innes, let me go. The name. The captain's name must be here somewhere. Innes was about to look for the name, but some bookshelves blocked her way, and when they collided, the books fell, causing one to fall on Innes' ankle, managing to hurt him, which caused her to fall but was caught by Issei. Meanwhile, the others were already in a safe part, and they realized that Professor Issei and Innes were missing, but they noticed how the bridge began to break. Rosweiss, the bridge. Julio, apparently he doesn't want us to come back. Eleanor, let's go. Louise, wait. Issei and the others aren't here yet. Meanwhile, with Issei, he was still inside the library with the professor and Innes. Issei, Professor, go ahead, I'll follow you. Colbert, I can't leave them. Issei, Professor, I can handle this. Colbert, okay, I trust you. At that, the teacher runs out but makes sure to clear the way for Issei and Innes while he helps Innes walk. After a few minutes, they manage to leave the library. Issei, come on Innes, teacher, help me. Colbert, okay. Colbert then helps Innes carry quickly, and while they were crossing the bridge, they see how it breaks, cutting off their path. Issei, seeing this, tells the professor to jump and go with the others. Issei, teacher, come quickly. Colbert, but what are you doing with Innes? Issei, don't worry, you know I'll be fine. At that point, Professor Colbert remembers that Issei was not human but a dragon, and he could summon his wings to fly. Colbert, okay, hurry up. At that the teacher crosses and goes to where the others are. Siesta, where is issei? Colbert, he's with Anise. Eleanor, but she won't be able to cross alone. Colbert, don't worry, it's fine. In that they see how issei carries Anise like a princess, she blushes slightly because of issei's action. Issei, hold on tight, Anise. Anise, what do you plan to do? Issei, let's jump. At that issei begins to gain momentum and jumps over the hole, but when he reaches the other side it breaks from the impact since it was more than he could bear, while the rest seeing this could not hold back their screams. All isci. Meanwhile with issei he was falling while Anise clings tightly to issei for fear of falling, but in that issei takes out his dragon wings to fly. The rest could only see how something was quickly approaching them, but then they see how issei flies in front of them, and then lands near them, and they see how she was carrying Anise. It is worth mentioning that Eleanor, Julio and Siesta were in shock since they saw how issei had dragon wings coming out of his back. After a few minutes Anise opens her eyes only to see how issei was carrying her, and he had wings on his back. When she sees him she is in shock. After a few seconds he leaves Anise on the floor, but Julio, Eleanor, and Anise begin asking questions. Julio, how do you have wings? Eleanor, what are you? Anise, how did you do that? Issei, I'll explain it to you later. It would be best to get out of here quickly. At that point, everyone starts running to quickly get out of the place as it was collapsing. After a few minutes of running non-stop, dodging rocks that fell from the ceiling and cracks that opened from the floor, they managed to escape. Louise, we did it. Rosweiss, yes, we were able to escape. Siesta, by a hair. They said this, cut off by the tiredness of running while they talked. Eleanor, Julio, and Anise went to where issei was in search of explanations of how he could do that, and then issei proceeded to explain what he was and where he came from. It is worth mentioning that they were in shock to find out that issei was not human but a demon dragon, and also that he came from another world. After that, issei had to prove that what he said was true by taking out his wings. After that, everyone went to rest, leaving issei and Anise in the place. Anise, thanks for saving me. Issei, it's nothing, I wouldn't let you die. At that, Anise blushes slightly because of issei's concern for her. Issei, well, it would be best if we went to rest. Anise, yes, you're right. At that, both of them begin to leave, but suddenly Anise turns around and goes to issei. She gives him a kiss on the cheek and then leaves, leaving issei in shock at what just happened. Chapter 27, Invasion. We are far from the Magic Academy. We are in a town that was being burned due to an attack by a mercenary. People were running for their lives, but this was useless as the mercenary forces killed all the men and children while some women were taken to play with later. While at the top of a small hill we can see a man watching everything with a smile. Unknown, as expected, the battlefield is my place. The smell of burning human flesh is a fragrance I love, and one that only the battlefield possesses. Time jump. Now we find ourselves in a castle in Albion in a room that was only lit by candlelight in which there were two people, a woman who was looking out the window while behind her was the leader of the mercenaries who had just attacked the town. Unknown, how nice of you to have come, Benubradano, I would like you to lend me your strength. At that the woman approaches the desk that was in front of the mercenary. Benubaru, my group is made up of only ordinary people. What exactly do you want us to do? She sits down while listening to what the mercenary was saying to her. Unknown, the allied armies of Tristane and Germania have captured the port of Albion, you must have heard that. Benubaru, do you want me to exterminate them? Unknown, no, sinking 500 battleships would be a difficult task even against you, right? At that Benubaru takes his weapon and begins to play with it in his hands while listening. When he finishes, a big smile forms on his face and he gets excited. Benubaru, I don't like easy tasks. What is the place you want me to set on fire? Unknown, your target will be the Magic Academy. Benubaru, the Magic Academy, huh? Meanwhile, in another place we can see how issei, Louise and Rosweiss were sleeping comfortably in the same bed. Issei was in the middle while Louise was on issei's right arm using it as a pillow, while on the other side was Rosweiss in the same way but with his left arm. While they slept, Louise's sister Eleanor entered her room, being careful not To wake anyone up, she had a rope and a sack in her hand. She moved slowly until she was close to them. Seeing them sleeping like that, she can't help but feel jealous, since her little sister had already found someone who loves and cares for her, while she was still single. At that, she uses magic on the rope, which begins to shine. Then she begins to direct the rope with her wand. The rope floats until it is above Louise. Then Eleanor gives another order with the wand and the rope begins to tie Louise, immobilizing her. At that, she wakes up. Louise, what? But suddenly she is covered by a sack. She starts to move to try to free herself, but it is useless. Then another rope closes the sack where Louise was. Louise, no! At that, Issei and Raswise wake up when they hear all the noise. Issei, what's going on? Why so much noise? Raswise, what's wrong, Issei? At that moment, they both saw a sack fly past them and Louise's screams came from it. Louise, Issei, help me! At that, Issei and Raswise get up and start following Louise. Then they see that the one who was doing all this was none other than Louise's older sister Eleanor. Issei, Eleanor, what's happening? Raswise, why are you carrying Louise like that? Eleanor just ignores them and starts walking. When they see that they don't receive an answer, they start following Eleanor. They see how she goes into the cells, and then they see how Eleanor puts the sack where Louise was. When Louise feels that they are leaving her on the floor, she starts screaming again. Louise, quick! Let me go! Open the bag! At that, the sack opens and Louise's ropes are released, and she quickly leaves the sack already untied. Louise, who the hell are you? And why are you interrupting my sleep with Issei? At that, Louise notices that the one who had done all this was her sister, and remains silent. Louise, Eleanor, Wanisama, and Issei and Raswise. At that, Issei and Raswise enter the place where she was. Eleanor, Louise, you must stay here for a while. Louise, why, Wanisama? Eleanor, why? Because you have that nonsense in your head. At that, Eleanor falls silent and begins to remember. Flashback starts. We can see the academy courtyard. It's almost noon and the Queen's troops were training. Some were practicing with swords, while another group, supervised by Ennies, was practicing with muskets. This was observed by Issei, Louise, and Raswise. Those with swords were practicing with dolls, which were counted in a single movement by the knights, while those practicing with firearms were guided by Ennies. Ennies, aim! At that, the knights put their weapons to point at the dolls that were in front of them. Ennies, fire! At that point, all the knights begin to shoot at the dolls. They all hit the center of the target except for one who missed, and this is noticed by Ennies, who approaches her. Ennies, aim properly at the target. The enemies will be moving on the battlefield. Knight, yes. Louise, what an incredible aura she has. Issei, yes. Raswise, it's hard to believe those recruits are just training. Issei, remember that they are preparing for a war. Besides, our training was worse than that. Ennies, stop everyone. Everyone, take a 5-minute break. At that, all the knights relax and begin to rest while Issei, Louise, and Raswise approach where Ennies was to see what was happening. Louise, anybody, is something wrong? Ennies, something unimportant. I'll soon leave this place. Upon hearing that, the boys are a little surprised because Ennies would leave. Ennies, Her Majesty will go to the front and leave in 7 days, as will the weapons squadron, to protect Her Majesty. We proceed to the Albion battlefield together with her. We will say goodbye to this academy. Ennies, the only thing I regret is not having been able to discover the name of Denguriel's enemy. Louise, I'll go to the front too. I have to help the princess. Flashback ends. Eleanor, one of the servants told me everything. Louise, but... Eleanor, Louise, the daughter of the Valier family, is not allowed to go to the battlefield. By the way, as a mage, what can you do if you can't even cast your magic properly? Louise, okay, I'll probably find a way to be useful in the war. Eleanor, listen carefully, Louise. The battlefield isn't as simple as you think with your naive mindset. Louise, that's why I'm going, and I have Issei and Raswise protecting me. Eleanor, shut up. I won't let you leave this place until you change your mind. Louise, that's very cruel. At that, Eleanor takes out her wand. Eleanor, I'll take care of this. Louise, you are too unreasonable, Wani-sama. At that, Eleanor makes Louise start to float. Louise, what? Put me down. Issei, Louise. At that point, Issei tries to help Louise, but Eleanor grabs Issei and Rosweiss from behind and pulls them out of the cell. After taking them out, she performs a spell and Louise falls to the ground, hitting her butt. Louise, hi. At that, Eleanor throws her clothes at Louise and then closes the door loudly. Eleanor, you will stay there until you change your mind. You must stay here to take care of Louise. Issei, yes. Louise, Issei, did you become Eleanor Wani-sama's ally? Issei, Louise, I'm sorry, but you're very important to me and I've already been in a war. Believe me, I'll take care of protecting the princess. I don't want anything to happen to you. Louise, but Issei. At that moment, Louise sees Issei wink at Louise without Eleanor noticing, and then she falls silent. Unknown, Miss Valieres, as Issei said. Louise, teacher. Eleanor, Professor Colbert, could you inform this little sister of mine of the reality? Excuse me? At that, Eleanor says goodbye to everyone and goes to her room, leaving them alone. Louise, Nei-san is the one who needs that. Colbert, Wani-san is just worried about you. Louise, although I am not very good at magic, I can do anything that His Majesty asks of me. I will defeat the enemy general so that everyone can see me. Colbert, defeat the enemy? Does that mean you're going to kill the enemy? Louise, that's not what I meant. Colbert, fighting for His Majesty, defeating the enemy for the people. No matter what excuse he used, it was still killing people. Colbert, I don't want my students to repeat past mistakes. Please don't mention that you want to go to the battlefield again. Louise, Professor. Meanwhile, outside the castle, you can see how at night a ship flying towards the academy approaches, which was full of Benubra mercenaries. Mercenary 1, an academy full of children is no fun at all. Mercenary 2, no, the Magic Academy should now be completely occupied by women, right? Mercenary 3, women? That's not bad. Mercenary 4, then we'll have them as prostitutes. At that, Benubaru turns to his men with a smile on his face. Benubaru, they are a group of despicable men. Whether they are women or whatever, we will let them die the same way. Returning with Louise and the others, she was sleeping on the floor while on the other side were Issei and Rosweiss since the teacher had left. Issei, Louise wakes up. Louise, what's going on? At that, Issei opens the door where Louise was. Issei, come on, let's go back to the room. Louise, it's okay. Meanwhile, outside the academy, all the knights were standing guard in the courtyard to make sure nothing happened. Then they heard a strange sound. Knight 1, what's going on? Knight 2, no, I just heard something. In that, both are quickly hit and fall knocked out to the ground. Then Benubaru appears. Benubaru, there's nothing to worry about. Then another knight tries to attack him from behind, but Benubaru quickly hits her on the head. Benubaru, leave them. Very well, we will act according to the plan. Mercenaries, yes, sir. That's when the mercenaries attack the academy. Meanwhile, elsewhere we can see how Tabitha was in front of a door, knocking on it. After a few seconds, Kerchi opened the door. Kerchi, what Tabitha? Tabitha, outside. Kerchi, the sky is still dark. Tabitha, it's weird. Kerchi, so it seems. Meanwhile, in another part of the academy, Anise was in her room lying down but awake with her sword in her hand since she had realized that something was happening. She heard someone knock on the door, and then it opened and one of the mercenaries entered, but Anise went to attack him, and without him being able to do anything, she cut his throat, killing him instantly from bleeding. At that moment, another knight came out of the room that was next door. Knight, Captain? Are you okay? Anise, I'm fine. At that moment, 2 other gentlemen arrive. Knight 2 and 3, the other men who entered our room have already been neutralized. Anise, they seem to be Albion dogs. Knight 1, I'm afraid so. Anise, good. Put on your armor and follow me. Meanwhile, with our protagonists, they were still in the cells and were going to leave, But then issei and Rosweiss felt like they were having a fight with someone at the top. Then the professor approached them. Colbert, I'm going to check this situation. Wait for me here. Issei protects the girls. Issei, yes. At that the professor leaves, leaving Issei, Louise, and Rosweiss alone. Issei, you felt it, Rosweiss. Rosweiss, yes. Louise, Issei, what's going on? Issei, they are attacking the academy. Louise, what are we going to do? Issei, Rosweiss, I want you to protect Louise. Go to your older sister's room. She will need help. I will help the others upstairs. Meanwhile, in another part of the castle, the mercenaries were entering the girls' rooms, waking them up and scaring them. Then they began to gather all the girls in one place in the academy. While the knights were already ready. Knights 1, all captains have been captured by the enemy. Anise, what do you say about the students? Gentlemen, they have gathered them in the dining room. The teachers and workers are also there. Anise, damn. They've taken them hostage. Meanwhile, with the mercenaries, they were in the dining room with all the students tied up along with Director Osman and Julio. Julio, instead of deciding the victor at the front, they come and attack the academy like this. Seems like Albion is in a despicable situation, right? Benubaru, are you trying to provoke me, kid? This doesn't concern me. I'm just doing what the boss said. Julio, I see that money can motivate the army. At that the director approaches Julio's ear. Osman, young Julio, this could be dangerous, stop provoking him. Benubaru, first let me tell you this, don't make my life difficult and I'll let you live, calm is assured. At that, Montmorency begins to cry because she can't stand the current situation any longer. Benubaru, shut up. At that Benubaru gets up from where he was and approaches where Montmorency was and grabs her by the neck. Benubaru, do you want to be reduced to ashes? At that Montmorency gets scared and quickly shakes his head. Benubaru, then shut up. Osman, the boy. Benubaru, what? Osman, what you need is a hostage, right? Why don't you take me? I wish the students would be released. At that Benubaru gets up again and approaches where Director Osman is. Benubaru, I'm sorry, but you can't be the only one. Your country won't be affected just because of your participation. Eleanor, so what do you say about us? Eleanor, we are the oldest daughters of the Valier family. My father is in charge of the country's army. Do you have something to say now? Katlia, then take me hostage too, so release the students. Benubaru, I admire your courage, but you two will not be enough. I need all the students of the academy. Her Majesty Henrietta will surely be worried if this concerns the lives of the women of the royal families. Meanwhile, Professor Colbert was watching everything that was happening through the window. Then he felt someone approaching him and left the place. Then he saw that the person who had approached him was one of the knights. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Anise could be seen with a squad of knights supporting her. She was at the entrance. Anise, people in the dining room, listen carefully. I'm from His Majesty's weapons squad. We have you surrounded. Release the hostages. If you surrender, we'll let you live. Benubaru, people from the weapons squad, huh? We have the hostages in our hands. Anise, people of the dining room. No, Albion's henchmen. What exactly is your motivation? Anise, this place is not a training ground for the army or the government, it's just a normal magic academy. At that Benubaru hears something moving and quickly begins to launch fire attacks against the back windows and doors, causing the knights to escape so as not to be harmed. Anise, what exploded before I gave the signal? At that moment, two gentlemen approach Anise. Anise, you guys go see what happened. Gentlemen, yes. Meanwhile, with issei and the others, he decided to accompany the girls since he had felt too many presences in the place. Louise, what was that? Issei, it seems they are in a battle. Meanwhile, Professor Colbert was in his laboratory writing a message on a bird to send it. When he finished, he opened the door and let it out. It quickly took flight towards the kingdom. At that time Anise was at the place where the explosions had occurred. When she arrived, she could only see how there were wounded knights there. Seeing them, she moved them away without them noticing. Returning with Benubaru, He was looking at where the attacks had taken place. Benubaru, a lovely plan, huh? At that he turns towards the door. Benubaru, Henrietta's weapons squad. Stop your useless fighting. You said this was a normal magic academy, right? So what's the weapons squad doing here? Benubaru, to Interestina, we have to end this academy that houses future talents. In that he approaches where Julio's was and reaches the same height. Benubaru, right? Let's try killing someone. Who could it be? First, this guy. Then he takes Julio by the neck. Benubaru, this will prove that we are serious about this. Then Anise comes in from behind. Anise, stop. Osman, Anya? Benubaru, hey. It's the female captain, huh? At that point, the other knights enter through the other door to attack the mercenaries, who respond. Benubaru begins to attack the knights' weapons with fire, causing them to melt. They take out their swords to fight. Anise rushes to fight against Benubaru. She jumps to attack him, but he easily dodges her. Benubaru, what a silly woman, do you really think you can defeat me? Anise, how could I lose against a despicable guy like you who uses hostages as a threat? At that Anise attacks Benubaru again, but he dodges her again by moving to the side. Benubaru, personally, I don't like the idea of taking hostages, since if that's the case it would be better to burn everything down. Anise, what? Meanwhile, Louise, Issei and Rosweiss, after checking the bedrooms, go to where all that noise was coming from. While they were going to the dining room, Anise was still fighting against Benubaru. They had just clashed sword against mace, and were using their strength to see who would win. Benubaru, in the past, I reduced an entire village to ashes. Anise is surprised to hear that. Benubaru, it was a wonderful sight, seeing the flames engulf the entire village. Benubaru, that's the excitement of the battlefield. At that point, Anise begins to remember how her entire village was burned. Anise, you to my hometown Dangudiel the arsonist, was that you? Meanwhile, Issei and the girls were watching the whole situation from behind. Louise, these are people from Albion, right? Rosweiss, damn, what cowards are using hostages. Unknown, what despicable guys. At that, the three of them turn around and see that the one who had spoken was Kirchi, who came with Tabitha. Kirchi, they really took their time, Valir, Issei. Louise, Kirchi, Tabitha. Returning to the meeting between Benubaru and Anise, they finished the push and separated. Benubaru, or you are the survivor of that village, right? Anise, I will not forgive your sins. At that Anise prepares to attack him again. Anise, die. At that Anise runs to attack him head-on, but Benubaru dodges her again. Benubaru, you do indeed have an advantage when it comes to sword fighting, but you are a commoner after all. In that Benubaru attacks Anise's sword with fire, which melts, but she throws it at him to attack him. Benubaru, now you have nothing else in your hands, here I go. At that Benubaru launches a fire attack against Anise, but she dodges it by jumping to the side. Returning with Issei and the others. Issei, Kirchi, do you have any idea how many people from Albion there are? Kirchi, I guess they aren't much, but... Tabitha, they are definitely not easy to handle. Issei, this is bad. Louise, we have to rescue them soon. Rosweiss, someone is coming. At that moment they turned around and saw that the one walking towards them was Professor Colbert. Colbert, guys. Louise, Professor Colbert. Colbert, so here they were, I was looking for them. Issei, Professor, they have them all hostage. Colbert, I know, I just asked for support, you guys use this opportunity and escape. Kirchi, support will come from the palace itself, right? We don't have time to wait that long. We have to do something. Colbert, enemies are professionals, they are not people you can deal with. Louise, but everyone is. Colbert, we have to wait for support to arrive. Hurry up and escape. Kirchi, cowards are useless if you want to escape so badly. Professor, do it yourself. Meanwhile, returning with Anise and Benubaru. Anise, you were the captain back then. Benubaru, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Anise, what? Benubaru, I said I'm sorry, but you're wrong, I was just the vice captain back then. Benubaru, the captain of the Flame of the Serpent. He was known as the Man of the Fire Serpent. That guy is much more cold-blooded than me, he set everything on fire. Anise, what did you say? Benubaru, I've been looking for that man, he was the one who left me this scar, the flame of the snake. At that Anise gets up from the floor and sees how Benubaru's eye begins to shine red. Benubaru, I want to burn that guy, that's the only wish I have. Returning with Issei and the others. Kerchi, those guys don't know about our existence here, we have the advantage. Colbert, they're all professionals, they're not opponents we can handle with a simple wand. Kerchi, teacher must be optimistic. Colbert, but... Kerchi, very well, let's prepare a plan to attack. Kerchi, first, someone will have to be our bait and interfere. Tabitha, just meddling won't be enough. Louise, must be able to attract the enemy's attention. Colbert, wait. Kerchi, now what? Colbert, I have a way to handle the current situation, so leave it to me. At that the professor leaves, returning with Anise and Benubaru. Benubaru, it gives me chills just remembering it. The captain that Dengudio fire was too incredible. In the blink of an eye the entire village was engulfed in flames. It was so beautiful. Benubaru, I was so mesmerized by the captain's superiority that I launched an attack from behind. That's what they call being young and impetuous, right? How superior is the captain? How genuine is his superiority? I was dying to know. Flashback starts. We can see how Benubaru was behind the captain with a big smile, and suddenly he decides to attack the captain with a fire attack, but he quickly counterattacks with a blue fire that surpasses his own and begins to burn him alive. Flashback ends. Benubaru, that guy is the best. He handled me without breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, Don Issei returned and was with the professor making a type of tool. Issei, what are they for? Colbert, just do it. Colbert, you said earlier that in your world, technology is equally shared among everyone, right? Issei, well before that, whoever it is would have to go through proper learning and training. Colbert, I see, that's wonderful. I hope that someday I can go to your world to take a look. Meanwhile with the girls. Kerchi, how long are they going to keep us waiting? Good heavens! Louise, if you all don't hurry up. Kerchi, if that's the case, we'll do it ourselves. At that Tabitha puts a hand on his shoulder and shakes her head at what Kerchi wanted to do. Tabitha, let's wait a little longer. Kerchi, okay. Returning with Issei and the professor, they have already finished. Issei, Professor, I'm done. Colbert, let's go then. At that, Issei and Colbert set off with the professor with 2 boxes full of what they had made, returning with Anise and Benubaru, who had already captured it. Anise, you bastard! You're crazy! Benubaru, maybe the discussions about the past end here, it's time to end this. At that Benubaru moves away from where Anise is and goes to where the director was. Benubaru. Director, send my words to Henrietta and ask her to sign the treaty to disperse her army from Albion. Osman, what? A treaty to disperse an army without any impossible conditions. I have no right to ask His Majesty to do something like that. Benubaru, he doesn't care if his precious students are reduced to ashes. Meanwhile, returning with Issei and the professor, they arrived at where Benubaru had previously attacked with his fire attacks. Colbert, Issei, when you go east when you return home. Issei, yes. Colbert, take me with you. At that they start walking again towards where the girls were and Louise turns around and sees them. Louise, Issei. Colbert, sorry for the delay. Kerchi, they arrive late. Louise, what is that? Colbert, I need all the strength from each of you. While with Benubaru he was walking around the hostages until he heard someone speaking. Julio, what a stupid way of doing things. Osman, Julio, stop. Julio, if this matter gets out on the front lines, they'll definitely launch an attack, right? They're really forcing themselves to end up dead. Albion's thinking is too low. Benubaru, do you want to die that much? Benubaru then tries to attack Julio, but notices something approaching him, and sees that they are some paper balls. Mercenary 1, what is that? Mercenary 2, how did those things get here? In that they see where those things came from, and Kerchi came with Tabitha while Issei, Ross Weiss, Louise, and Professor Colbert were hiding under a staircase. Colbert, listen, our goal is to get everyone out of here, don't compromise with the enemy. Issei, understood. Colbert, okay now. At that Kerchi casts a fire spell that causes all the paper balls to explode, causing a large flash that left everyone blind. After that, there was a dense fog that made it impossible to see. Colbert, now. At that point, everyone enters and begins to attack the mercenaries. Kerchi and Tabitha combine fire and wind attacks, causing great damage. While Louise fights with another one, he is going to hit her, but Issei arrives from behind and hits him in the neck, knocking him out. Anise, Issei. Then Issei sees a sword on the ground and throws it to Anise so she can defend herself. Louise, the plan is working. Rossweiss, okay, let's get everyone out. Then they see how a fire attack sends Kerchi and Tabitha flying. Louise, Kerchi, Tabitha. Then they see Benubaru approaching them slowly. Kerchi tries to take his wand, but Benubaru steps forward and prevents him from taking it. Benubaru, that's bad. Kerchi, don't tell me your eye. At that Benubaru takes out his eye. Benubaru, since I was sacrificed I went blind. Kerchi, how is it that you can see us? Benubaru, a snake senses its prey by the heat it emits. I've been controlling the flames for so long that there's an ideal temperature to cut off a human head. At that Benubaru approaches Kerchi and takes her by the head. Benubaru, I want to smell like you smell charred. At that Benubaru lifts her by the hair and throws her far away. Kerchi, no. At that point, Benubaru charges a fire attack and launches it at Kerchi. She closes her eyes in fear, but suddenly, a water attack counters Benubaru's attack. Louise, teacher. At that point, Professor Colbert approaches where Kerchi was. Colbert, let my students go. Benubaru, it's you. Benubaru, you are. Benubaru, the temperature I've been looking for. I've been looking for you. How nostalgic, Captain. Upon hearing that, everyone is shocked that Benubaru called Professor Colbert Captain. Anise, what? Colbert, you've lost your sight, right? Benubaru, yes, thanks to the wound you caused me, Captain. Louise, Professor Colbert is the captain? Benubaru, teacher. Ahahaha. Benubaru, you've become a teacher. I'm not surprised we didn't meet on the battlefield. I didn't think you had become a teacher. The one I knew as the Fire Serpent. Kerchi, Fire Serpent? Benubaru, that's right, this is the man. In the past, known as the Fire Serpent, the mage who controls the Fire Serpent. Be it children or women, the man who turns everything into ash. Anise just looked at all this in shock. She never expected that the professor who opposed the war had been the Fire Serpent that burned her entire village, and that had always been with her without her realizing it. Benubaru, also the guy who stole my sight. At that moment, one of the mercenaries tries to attack Colbert from behind, but he realizes this and reacts quickly with a blue fire attack that causes the mercenary to fly away and faint. Benubaru, as expected from the captain, it seems your skills haven't diminished one bit. Good. That's how it should be. Colbert, Miss Zerbiest, help Miss Tabitha and get out of here. Kerchi, yes. Colbert, Miss Louise, Issei, and Rossweiss, get everyone out of here. Both, yes. In that, Kerchi helps Tabitha and they leave while Issei and Louise took everyone out of the place, freed all the girls. Issei and Rossweiss cut all the ropes while Louise went to where her sisters were. Eleanor, come on Louise, hurry up. Louise, let's see what the spell to untie the rope was like. At that Louise tries a spell and manages to untie the rope. Louise, I did it. Eleanor, it was just luck. At that Louise repeats the spell and unties the other ropes. At that Klatia stands up and congratulates Louise. Klatia, well done Louise. Issei, this way. At that, they all run off where Issei told them to. Meanwhile, Anise was in shock because of Recife's revelation while she watched Colbert face Benubaru, in which Colbert exchanged attacks since his fire attacks surpassed Benubaru's. Anise, Colbert is my enemy, my father, my mother, he stole everything from me. At that point she gets angry and attacks Colbert because of the anger that controlled her. Anise, die. At that point, Anise tries to cut Colbert, but he dodges her. Colbert, Anya, please don't come near me. Anise, don't joke with me. I'm going to kill you. At that point, Colbert realizes he's in trouble, as he has to face Benubaru and now Anise. Benubaru, get lost, commoner. You have no business with us. In that, Benubaru attacks Anise, but Colbert counters the attack with one of his own. Both attacks are equal in power and collide with each other, without one surpassing the other. Colbert, it's dangerous, hurry up and get out of here. Anise, as if I were going to do it. Anise attacks Colbert again, and this is noticed by Benubaru, who proceeds to attack her. Professor Colbert notices this, and sees how the great fire attack is heading towards Anise. She sees it and freezes, but Colbert reacts and pushes her out of the way, receiving the attack. Anise can only see how Professor Colbert was burning. After the fire went out, Professor Colbert falls to the floor weakly while Benubaru just laughs at the situation. Benubaru, a Jajuj captain, how does it feel to burn to death? At that, Colbert gets up again and Anise sees how Colbert had a scar on his back, the same scar as the person who had saved her when she was a child and they attacked her town, while Colbert was on the floor unable to move. Benubaru, I've been waiting for this for so long, the moment I would burn you to death. I have to thank you, Captain. Colbert, Count Jera. Benubaru, I'll get revenge on you. Colbert, throw Jefu. At that, Colbert launches a fire attack against Benubaru, which at first hurt him, but then no longer did. Benubaru, as expected from the fire serpent. At that point, Benubaru undoes Professor Colbert's fire attack, but the latter launches another one, but it had no effect. Benubaru, a Jaj, I'm not as weak as before, my flame level has surpassed that of my captain. Colbert, you're the same as you were back then. Benubaru, what? Colbert, you're just as arrogant as you were back then. At that, Professor Colbert launches another attack, much more powerful than the previous ones, which causes Benubaru to scream in pain, but after a few minutes, Benubaru gets up again. Benubaru, damn! At that, Benubaru raises his mallet and begins to generate his own attack, and it absorbs Professor Colbert's attack, generating an attack more powerful than the professor's, but the professor tries to resist but fails and falls to the floor. Benubaru, Count Hagalaz Hagalalis Windy. Benubaru, take this. But suddenly he notices Anise approaching and buries his sword in his stomach. Anise, to avenge my people. At that, Benubaru stops the attack and then falls dead. Now Anise heads to where Colbert was still on his knees. Colbert, are you okay? Colbert, thank God. Anise, why did you save me that day when you set fire to Danguriel? Colbert, because I realized I made a mistake. Louise, Professor Colbert. Kerchi, teacher. Issei, teacher. Then the three of them arrive at where Professor Colbert was. Anise, go away. Kerchi, what are your intentions? Anise, don't obstruct me. At that, Anise raises his sword to attack the professor. Louise, stop, Anise. Kerchi, please stop. Anise, go away. This is for all the days I've endured. 20 years. 20 whole years. Issei, Anise, stop. Kerchi, stop, please. Anise, go away. Colbert, Miss Zerbius, please move. Anise has the right to kill me. Kerchi, teacher. In that, Professor Colbert remembers how he fulfilled the mission of destroying the town of Anise. Colbert, that was the first time I realized I'd made a grave mistake. I'd always thought that following orders was the right thing to do, but it's not. Killing people is a sin even in a war. Come on, kill me. But let this be the last time you kill people. Anise, you bastard, how dare you lecture me with this? At that, Anise raises his sword again to attack. Kerchi, stop. Louise, 4. Anise, move. Louise, Anise, stop. At that, Anise sees how Louise shed a few tears. Louise, he's gone. Anise, what did you say? At that Anise launches the attack, but it fails and hits the floor, and then she kneels and leans on her sword. Time jump. Now we can see how Louise, issei, and Rosweiss were in charge of cleaning the professor's plane, but suddenly they see Anise approaching. Louise, Anise. Anise, so here they were, take this. At that Anise hands a letter to issei. Issei, a letter? Anise, I found her while I was putting away Colbert's room stuff. Issei, I have a hard time reading that language. At that Louise approaches where they were and takes the letter to read it. Louise, issei intended to give you this letter when you had to go to the battlefield. To be frank, in the past I committed a mortal sin. To fix that sin that I had committed, I began to deal with the research. Recently I have begun to think on the matter, and I realize that no matter what I do, I will never be able to fix that sin committed. Issei, I hope you can promise me that you will not make dying a habit for people, that you will not make fighting a habit, that you will not make killing a habit. Issei, you have told me many things about the world you live in. I wish to see that world. I hope that you can take me to that place one day. Louise, that's the end. Issei, thank you. At that Issei takes the letter. Anise, they are just selfish words. Louise, will you never forgive the teacher? Anise, how can I know? At that Anise turns his back on them and leaves the place. Louise, Professor Colbert wanted to go to the world where Issei lived, right? What a strange man. At that Louise approaches where Issei was and sees that he was shedding some tears. Louise, don't cry. Issei, I don't cry. At that Louise approaches Issei and hugs him, then Rosweiss imitates her and hugs Issei. Issei, I will protect them with my life. Chapter 28, The Phoenix. Now we find ourselves in the city of Ko, where the Gremory girls were gathered, chatting about who would be the next to go to where Issei was so he could forgive them. Rias, girls, any news about Rosweiss? Akeno, don't laugh. Asia, I hope you're okay. Zenobia, you're right, I hope she's okay even though she's not weak. Irina, hey. Rias, what's wrong, Irina? Irina, Ryu wasn't supposed to send us to where Issei was. Akeno, yes, but what's wrong? Irina, so we would appear where he is, and Ryu also told us that if he rejected us we would come back here, right? Zenobia, yes, but what does it have to do with it? Irina, it means that Rosweiss did find Issei, and if not, he's back. Rias, it means that he does accept her. Asia, but if that's the case, why haven't they come back? Rias, I don't know. Akeno, maybe they can't because they don't know how. Asia, but Ryu was supposed to bring them. Rias, it's true. Irina, we can't ask Ryo-sama where Rosweiss is. Rias, maybe, but first we have to talk to my brother so he can call him. In that, Rias creates a magic circle to be able to communicate with his brother Surzek. Surzek, what's going on, Rias? Any news on Issei or Rosweiss? Rias, no, we want to know if you can call Ryo-sama to ask him. Surzek, I can call him, but I don't know if it will work. Rias, please, brother. Surzek, that's fine, but you have to wait. Rias, thanks, brother, bye. Surzek, bye now. At that, Rias's magic circle disappears, but suddenly they see how a circle of fire is created, and from this Ravel Phoenix emerges, carrying several papers in her hands. Ravel, hello girls, have you seen Issei? Rias, no, why? Ravel, I need you to sign this for the program, and you must also show up for the filming of this. Rias, I see, if we see him we will tell him. Ravel, okay, I'll leave it here. At that, Ravel leaves the papers on a table, and then leaves in a magic circle to his home. Asia, Rias. Rias, yes, Asia. Asia, shouldn't we tell Ravel about Issei? Rias, Asia, as few people as possible should know about Issei. Akeno, the president is right, we don't know how the others might react if they find out that Issei is missing. Ravel, Issei disappeared? At that, they all turn around and see that Ravel hadn't left, and was still there. Rias, Ravel, you hadn't left. Ravel, yes, but I forgot to tell you something. Rias, I see, and what was it? Ravel, my parents wanted to talk to Issei, but how come Issei disappeared? Rias, well, what happened was. In that you laugh and the girls begin to tell Ravel everything that had happened with Issei, about how they forgot about him because they wanted to know what their relationship was like to make him happy, also about how they found out where he was and about Ryu who would help them get Issei back. They also told him about how they ended their relationships with humans. It should be mentioned that Ravel was angry with the girls for how they did that to Issei, although deep down she still felt somewhat guilty because she also distanced herself from Issei because of work. Ravel, I see. How did you come up with such a stupid idea? Look what you caused. Rias, I know we were wrong, but we want to get Issei back. Asia, we are sorry because we hurt the person we love. Ravel, and about sending them to where Issei is that Ryu guy right? Rias, yes, Rosweiss has already gone there, but we don't know anything about how she is or if she found Issei. Ravel, I see. If that's the case, who will be the next to go where Issei is? Rias, well, it's not decided yet. Ravel, in that case I want to go. Akeno, Era, I'm sorry, but I'll be the one who goes. Zenobia, and when did we decide it would be you? Irina, Zenobia is right. Why would you go and not me since I'm her childhood friend? Akeno, because Issei prefers me, I will convince him to forgive us and come back. Asia, in that case I want to go. I owe a lot to Issei, and he promised not to leave me alone. Rias, I will be the one who goes. I am your king, so I will beat my cute pawn. In that the girls continue arguing while Ravel watched in silence and wondered where Kaneko was. In that she decides to go see in the house. After searching all over the house while the girls continue arguing, she decides to enter Issei's room, and when she does she sees that there is a lump in Issei's bed. She approaches to see what it is, and when she is next to the bed she slowly lifts the sheet, and when she does she can see that it was Kaneko who was sleeping in Issei's bed, but in that Irina notices how Kaneko was having a nightmare, so she decides to wake her up. Ravel, Kaneko wakes up. Ravel, Kaneko, wake up Kaneko. Then Ravel, seeing that she didn't wake up with words, begins to move Kaneko until she finally wakes up. Kaneko, what's going on? Ravel, it seems you had a nightmare. Kaneko, is that you? Ravel, yes, but what were you dreaming about? It was obviously bad. Kaneko, nothing was about Senpai, and he decided to stay where he was, forgetting about us. Ravel, don't worry, Issei wouldn't forget about you. Kaneko, but we hurt Senpai. Ravel, yes, but everyone makes mistakes, and if they manage to explain it to Issei, maybe he will forgive them. Kaneko, what if not? Ravel, don't think he won't do it, he's always worried about you. Kaneko, you're right. Ravel, come on, it seems the others have already stopped fighting. Kaneko, why were they fighting? Ravel, who was the one who would go for Issei? Kaneko, I see, I'll go for Senpai. Ravel, don't be so sure, I'll go for Issei. Then they arrive at the room where the girls were sitting, and Surzek was also there, who apparently was the one who had stopped the girls' fight. Ravel, good afternoon, Surzek-sama. Surzek, good morning, Ravel, it seems they already told you about Issei. Ravel, that's right. Surzek, and how do you feel about it? Ravel, the truth is I'm angry with the girls for what they did to Issei, although in part one also feel guilty because I also distanced myself from Issei and didn't tell him what I feel. At that, the girls look at Ravel with a murderous look because she also wanted to be with Issei, and now they would have more competition. Surzek, I see, but don't worry, we'll bring Issei back. Ravel, okay, but changing the subject, why is Surzek-sama here? Surzek, what happens is that Rias called me to call Ryu-sama and asked him about Rosweiss. Ravel, I see. Surzek, well, since things have calmed down, I will now summon Ryu-sama and remember not to fight when he is here. Girls, it's okay. At that, Surzek begins to perform a strange magic circle that they had not seen before, and then they see how the circle begins to shine and takes on a black color. After a few seconds, someone appears from the circle, which was Ryu. Ryu, why do you call me Surzek? Surzek, well, what happens is that we wanted to ask you something. Ryu, and what would that be? Rias, we want to know about Rosweiss. Ryu, and what do you want to know? Rias, do we want to know if he found Issei? Ryu, I don't have to check. Do you want to see what he's doing now? Girls, yes. At that, Ryu raises both hands and creates a large black magic circle in which after a few seconds you could see an image that turned out to be Issei and Raswise. It was already night and they were alone in the room. Asia, Issei. Ryu, he can't see or hear us, we can only observe. At that, Raswise and Issei start talking. Raswise, what are you doing about the war? Issei, it's simple, Raswise, I'll go fight to protect Rias, Siesta and you. Raswise, I see, but what will we do? Issei, Raswise, I would like you to stay at the academy and protect Rias and Siesta. Raswise, Issei, I won't let you go fight alone. Issei, Raswise, I don't want them to get hurt, that's why I want you to stay with the girls. Raswise, I know you care about us, but you can't handle everything by yourself. Issei, maybe you're right, but I don't want to lose you. You are the most important thing to me. At that, Raswise approaches Issei and kisses him on the mouth. After a minute they separate. Raswise, I know you care about us, but let us help you because you are the most important thing to us. In that, Raswise kisses Issei again, while on the other side with the Gremry girls, they were more than jealous since they wanted to be the ones to kiss Issei and not Raswise, while Surzek and Ryu kept looking at Issei with an approving look. Meanwhile, Issei separates from Raswise due to lack of oxygen. Issei, Ras-chan, I don't need more. Then he kisses Raswise again with passion and Raswise just hugs Issei by the neck. Raswise, I want it too. In that, Issei carries Raswise like a princess while he kisses her and takes her to the bed in the room where he lays her down, and he gets on top of her without stopping kissing her after a few seconds and separates. At that, Issei starts playing with her breasts while Raswise could only let out moans. Raswise, ha, Issei feels it feels good, ha, don't stop. At that, Issei begins to take off Raswise's clothes, starting by taking off her top part, which consisted of a lilac shirt. After unbuttoning the shirt, Issei starts to see Raswise's large breasts. She just blushes. Raswise, Issei, don't stare at me, it's embarrassing. Issei, I'm sorry, Ras-chan, it's just that you're beautiful. At that, Issei takes off Raswise's bra, revealing her large breasts with pink nipples, which were already hard because Issei was so excited when she saw them. She takes one with her hand and begins to play with her nipple while sucking the other and giving it some measure, which caused Raswise to only moan with pleasure. Meanwhile, on the other side with the Gremry girls, they were more than red because of what was happening in that. Ryu notices this and cuts the vision to give Issei privacy while he is with his girlfriend. Ryu, it seems that Raswise had no problems with Issei. Surzek, that's what Ryu-sama looks like. Rias, damn, I was supposed to be Issei's first time. Akeno, Era, it seems that Raswise took too much advantage because of our indecision. Asia, Issei, if only you had asked me. Rias, it doesn't matter, girls, this just means that Issei can forgive us. Ryu, are you sure, Gremry girl? Rias, what does Ryu-sama mean? Ryu, Raswise's situation was different from yours. Zenobia, why is the situation different? Ryu, well, you left Issei and he loved you. Meanwhile, Issei didn't love Raswise at that time since what he felt for her wasn't clear, just like what she felt for him. That's why the ritual of the fallen dragon didn't affect those feelings. Asia, does that mean we won't be able to get Issei back? Ryu, you're wrong, I didn't say that. Asia, so what does that mean? Ryu, what I mean is that it will take you much longer and longer for Issei to forgive you and for you to return to that level of relationship. Asia, I see. Rias, it means we still have hope. Ryu, exactly. Rias, then we won't give up until we get back the man we love. Ryu, I'm glad to hear that, I just hope they don't make the same mistakes. Irenia, rest assured that we will not hurt Issei in the same way again. Surzek, changing the subject, Ryu-sama, when could I send the next one? Ryu, about that, Surzek, it won't be long before I can recover and I think I can send 2 of you this. Surzek, I see, thanks for helping us. Ryu, without anything else, goodbye. In that, Ryu creates a black magic circle and crosses it, returning to his home. Meanwhile, Surzek returns to where the girls were, and they see that they were arguing about who would be the ones to go to Issei. Rias, Akeno and I will go. Zenobia, and why are you going and not me and Irina? And so the girls continued arguing while Surzek just watched this with a drop of sweat on his head because he still couldn't stop fighting while Ravel was chatting with Kaneko. Ravel, Kaneko, let's go with Issei, we can surely convince him. Kaneko, how are you so sure? Ravel, because we are the smallest and we can take advantage of that. Besides, you have helped Issei a lot, especially after he activated the Juggernaut drive with your senjutsu. Kaneko, you're right, maybe we can, but how will we do it with the others? Ravel, let's do the same as ISO Rosweiss to go with Issei, let's just talk to Ryu instead of staying and arguing with him. Kaneko, it's okay. Ravel, this is a secret. Kaneko, yes. Meanwhile, returning with Issei, he continued having sexual relations with Rosweiss. Lemon skipped. Issei, I love you, Ross-chan. Rosweiss, I love you too. Chapter 29, Battle in the Snows. We find ourselves at the academy where Issei was waking up next to his beloved albino who was sleeping using her arm as a pillow with a big smile on her face for everything that had happened the night before without knowing that they were being watched. Issei, thinking, she looks so beautiful. Then someone abruptly opens the door. Unknown, Issei, let's go, the princess is calling us. At that Issei realizes that the person who just came in screaming was Louise who, upon seeing her, notices how she was in shock because of what she saw. Issei was naked in bed next to Rosweiss who was hugging Issei as if he were a pillow. Louise angry, so that's why you couldn't come to sleep last night. Issei nervous, he good morning Louise. Louise angry, hurry up, the princess called us for a mission. At that Louise leaves and closes the door loudly, leaving Issei in bed nervous about what just happened and also waking up Rosweiss. Rosweiss, good morning Issei-kun. Issei, good morning Ross-chan, let's go. Louise says the princess needs us, so let's go. Time jump. Now we are in the throne room, in front of Queen Henrietta who is waiting for them seated. Louise, here we are princess. At that Louise kneels in front of the princess who, upon seeing this, gets up from the throne and goes to where Louise was and takes her to lift her. Henrietta, Louise. Louise, princess. Henrietta, I apologize for making you come all the way to Albion. At that, Henrietta helps Louise get up and when they are already standing, she looks at Issei and Rosweiss. Henrietta, just like you Issei and Rosweiss. Mr. Defense, this may be a bit hasty, Miss Valier, but we hope you can help us with your magic for the good of our nation. Louise, okay? At that Louise looks at the princess, and she nods her head. After that, they move to where they had a map of the terrain to plan the attack on Albion. Defense, this is where our base is located, Razeth, and this is our objective, the capital of Albion, Londinium. At this time, the defensive line of our enemies is located in the city of Gotha to the south. Defense, if we attack them there, our army will be engaged in a cruel battle, and that is why, just as they did in the attack on Tristan in the past, we hope that your magic can be used in South Gotha to put the enemy out of combat. Henrietta, if we had to engage in a battle inside that city, the peasants would be caught in the middle of the battle. That is precisely what I want to avoid. Louise, I understand. I will do my best not to disappoint you, Your Majesty. Time jump. Now we find Issei, Louise and Rosweiss riding on the plane that Professor Colbert restored in the past. They are on their way to Albion to take care of them. Issei, we came to Albion because the princess summoned us and only wants us for battle. Louise, and how is it that you will do the impossible to not disappoint her? Louise, okay. Don't shout anymore, I know I rushed. Issei, Louise, what happens if we don't make it? Louise, but... Issei, besides, you still can't fully control your magic and you haven't even mastered the basics of void magic. Louise, it doesn't matter, sorry, I know I got carried away, but I'm sorry. Issei, don't be mad at me. Rosweiss, Louise, we're not mad at you, it's just that this is a war and the three of us can't handle everything. Louise, but you are very strong. Rosweiss, I know we are strong, but you will be there too and we have to protect you just like you have to protect us. Besides, Issei can't take care of everything. Louise, I'm sorry Issei, I didn't mean to cause you any trouble. Issei, don't blame yourself, what's done is done. The thing is that you're very impulsive, and at some point I might not be with you and I don't want you to get hurt. Louise, okay, I'll control myself more when we're with the princess. In that Issei know that Louise was sad because she had just been scolded. Seeing this, Issei turns towards her, takes her by the chin and gives her a quick kiss on the lips, which causes Louise to be surprised. Louise, why was that? Issei, I don't like seeing you sad. I will always be there to support you so you don't have to be sad. Now let's end this. Louise, it's okay. Rosweiss, we are not bringing the people closer. Issei, Louise, get ready. Louise, it's okay. At that point they were already close to the village. Issei opens the top of the plane so Louise can launch the attack. She stands up and begins to cast the spell. After a few minutes she finishes and casts it, but nothing happens. They only saw how light began to appear, but then it no longer worked. At that point, Issei sees that dragons were approaching him to attack him. Issei, they discovered us. At that Issei pulls Louise inside and then closes the capsule. At that he sees that the dragons begin to attack him by throwing fire, at which Issei begins to dodge their attacks. Issei, Louise, are you okay? Louise, yes, I'm fine. Rosweiss, Louise, what happened? Louise, I don't know, it was fine, but when I finished casting the spell I felt tired and couldn't do anything else. Issei, it doesn't matter anymore, girls, hold on if we're in a battle. In that Issei sees how the two dragons that were attacking him get closer again to try to shoot him down, but Issei manages to dodge their attacks and raises the plane, and then descends, putting himself behind the dragons and begins to shoot at the one he managed to aim at. This hits it in the wings, causing the dragon to be shot down. But he sees that the other dragon was behind him and sees how it launched an attack that he could not dodge, hitting it in the engine of the right wing, which causes it to begin to fail, but in that Issei manages to get behind it and attacks it, hitting the dragon in the back and in the tail, causing it to fall to the ground due to its wounds. Issei, girls, hold on. At that Issei tries to regain control of the plane to be able to land, but the controls due to the damage got stuck, making it impossible to soften the impact, so Issei decides that they will have to jump. At that Issei takes off his seat belt and opens the top of the plane and turns to the girls. Issei, girls, hold on tight. In that Issei takes Rosweiss with his right arm from the waist, while in the same way he takes Louise and jumps from the plane to then summon his dragon wings. The girls were scared because they thought they would not make it, so they both closed their eyes in fear. After a few minutes Issei decides to land near where the plane crashed and leaves the girls on the ground. Issei, we are safe now, girls. Meanwhile, in another part of Albion, far from where Issei was with the girls, we can see how Princess Henrietta was waiting for news of her mission, and then she sees how the Minister of Defense enters the room where she was. Henrietta, any news from Louise? Defense, they have not returned yet, and we have not received anything strange from the enemy, so it is most likely that they have failed in their mission. Henrietta, it can't be. Mr. Defense, it was a mistake for us to have trusted those simple young people. Now the only thing we can do is launch a frontal attack. I beg you to order the invasion of the city of South Gata. Henrietta, okay, permission granted. Defense agreed. At that Anise does not believe they are dead and decides to intervene. Anise, your majesty, don't you think Issei and Louise could be? Meanwhile, far from there we can see how Issei and the girls were walking in search of shelter because it was already night and they were in the middle of a snowstorm. Louise, what will we do now? We failed in our mission. How will I apologize to the princess? Issei, Louise, that's not important now. Louise, but... Rosweiss, Issei is right. Now the important thing is to find shelter and then return to the princess. Louise, it's okay. After a few minutes of walking, Issei decides that it is time to rest and creates a shelter against the snowstorm. This consists of an igloo big enough for the three of them, in addition to it being closed, and he gathers some sticks to be able to light a fire. After a while, Issei has everything ready and the girls were inside the igloo. In that, Issei puts a pile of sticks in the middle and then sets them on fire with magic. The girls approach Issei, and when he sees them, he hugs them both to try to warm them up. Louise, Issei, what are we going to do now? Issei, I think it would be best to try to return to Albion, but I think it would be better if we did it on foot so as not to attract the attention of Albion's forces. Louise, I see. And how will we tell this to the princess? We failed the mission. Issei, Louise, the mission no longer matters. The best thing would be to focus on what the princess will do now and support her in that. Rias. Issei is right, the mission doesn't matter anymore. Then Issei decides to talk to his tenants without the girls noticing. Issei, guys are awake. Drake, what's up Issei? Derflinger, what's up, buddy? Issei, do any of you have any idea why Louise had trouble with void magic? Drake, dude, I think what happened was that the girl lacked power. Derflinger, Drake is right. What happened was that Louise doesn't have enough power to be able to use void magic. All the power she accumulated during her life has now become normal magic. Issei, what do you mean? Derflinger, what happens is that Louise couldn't use magic since her magical reserves were focused on the power of the void, but when they started training her, they converted almost all of that power into normal magic, so she no longer had enough power for void magic. Issei, I see, but can't we fix that? Drake, partner, and you use the augmentations to give her more power so she can use that void magic. Issei, do you think it will work? I don't know how many Louise can resist, besides, my power is that of a dragon, won't it hurt her? Drake, partner, you just have to transfer 1 or 2 increases to her. With that I think it will be enough for her to be able to use her power without you hurting her. Derflinger, I think Drake is right, maybe that could work. While Issei was talking to Drake and Derflinger, the girls tried to talk to him but he didn't respond, so they decided to get his attention. Issei noticed this from within and decided to respond. Issei, what's up girls? Louise, we saw that you weren't reacting so we got worried. Issei, it's nothing, I was talking to Drake and Derflinger. Rias, and what were you talking about? Issei, it was from. At that Issei begins to tell her about everything he talked about with Drake and Derflinger about Louise's power and the possible solution they came up with. Then they continued talking about what they would do, and then they fell asleep. Issei hugging both girls who snuggled up to Issei's chest. Time jump. Now it's morning and Issei was outside the igloo with the girls. He was stretching while the girls finished getting ready. Rias, Issei, where to now? Issei, we came from that direction so it would be best to go back for it. Louise, but the town is also over there. Issei, we'll have to be careful with them. Meanwhile, far from the place we can see how in a room there was a beautiful woman with black hair looking out the window until someone enters the place where she was. Unknown, Governor Sheffield, the bulk of the enemy fleet is advancing towards the city of South Goda. We should send reinforcements. Sheffield, it won't be necessary. Tell the city guards to withdraw, and at the same time remove all traces of provisions from the city. Unknown, the groceries? Sheffield, don't you think it'll be a problem to realize after capturing that place that there's nothing to eat? That way we can buy some time. Unknown, and what will we do with the inhabitants of the city? Sheffield, and why should we worry about the city's inhabitants now? Order a retreat right now. Unknown, at your service. At that moment, another person enters the room while the stranger just leaves the place. He whispers something in Sheffield's ear. Sheffield, a flying iron dragon? Unknown too, I landed outside the city of South Goda. It must surely be the work of Tristan. Sheffield, how interesting. Capture the iron dragon quickly. Do it while the troops retreat from the area. And as for the dragon rider, kill him. Meanwhile, in another place, we can see how Issei and the girls are walking, and in the distance they notice that there was something buried in the snow, and they approach to see what it was. When they arrive, they see that it was a dragon. Issei, this is a flying dragon. At that Issei sees something jump out from under the dragon's wing and attacks Issei, causing him to fall to the ground. Louise/Rias, issei. At that Issei recognizes that the person who had jumped into the abyss was one of the dragon riders they were fighting with. At that Issei sees how the subject attacks him with wind magic, which causes Issei to step back a little and summon Derflinger to fight, but then he notices that the enemy was injured in his left leg, Then he sees how he falls to the ground from the injury. Louise, she fainted. Rosweiss has a wounded leg. Louise, issei, we should help him. Issei, Louise, he is an enemy. Louise, but. Issei, okay, maybe later we can get information from him. At that, Issei carries the boy on his back. Louise, wouldn't it be better to cure him? Rosweiss, if we heal him he could attack us, now we have the advantage since he is injured and is not a threat. Louise, I see. Issei, although I think it would be best to interrogate him here and then kill him. Louise, attacking a wounded person would damage my status as a noble. Unknown, I would die to protect my noble status, that's what it means to be a noble. At that moment, the stranger grabs Issei by the neck and tries to knock him down, but Issei hits him with his elbow in the rib, which causes him to let go of his grip due to the pain. At that moment, Issei throws him to the ground and gets on top of him, bending his arm behind his back. While doing this, a silver medallion falls out of the stranger's hand and Louise picks it up. Unknown, finish me off. At that, Issei gets off the boy. Unknown, finish me off. Issei, why? Unknown, is it because if you kill me while I'm wounded, your title of nobility would be lost? Right. That is what we are trying to do to get up. Unknown, don't worry, it's just a small wound. But he falls again because of the pain of the wound, when Issei approaches and grabs him by the neck. Issei, stop talking nonsense, I'm not a noble and I don't give a shit about classes. Now all I want is to go back home with the people I love, who are Louise-chan, Rosweiss-chan, this is not nonsense. At that, Issei pushes the boy to the ground and goes to where the girls are, who are slightly blushing from what Issei just said. While Louise looked at the medallion she had picked up, she opened it and saw the image of a beautiful young woman. Then she closes it and goes to the stranger. Louise, this is yours, right? Unknown, give it back to me. Then the stranger tries to take the medallion from Louise, but she binds it. Louise, I picked it up for you. Is this all the gratitude you can muster? At that moment, Issei approaches where Louise was and takes the medallion from her to give it to the stranger. Issei, stop provoking him. Louise, I'm sorry. Issei, come on, it would be best to continue. At that, Issei carries the stranger again, and they set off again. After a while of walking, Issei notices that Louise was a bit down. Issei, Louise, what's wrong? Louise, I'm worried. Issei, don't worry, we'll return to the academy without any problems. Louise, I know that, what worries me is that we will tell the princess about the mission we failed. Issei, we'll just tell him what happened now. Louise, but the princess trusted me so much that she entrusted me with this mission, and we failed to accomplish it. Issei, Louise, stop giving it so much importance. The princess is fighting alongside thousands of people. A failure won't make many changes in this type of war, so relax. Louise, this is important. I am a noble from one of the best noble families and one of the best magicians, and I have not even been able to carry out this mission. Unknown, you have a noble heart. I understood that the nobles of Trine were spoiled children. I would never have imagined that a young woman like you could have such noble reasoning. Louise, you're very young too, aren't you? We must be around the same age, right? My name is Louise, Louise de la Valliere. Issei, I am Issei Hayato Issei. Rosweiss, I am Rosweiss. Louise, you could at least tell us your name, right? Unknown, Henry Albion Air Warrior, Henry Stafford. Louise, nice to meet you, Henry. Meanwhile, in another part of the snowy mountains, a group of Albion warriors were looking for something. Unknown, they should be here, hurry. Men, yes. At that point the soldiers begin to advance, and slide down the snow mountain they were standing on to get down faster. Returning with Issei and the others. Henry, but yours wasn't a flying dragon, was it? More like some kind of mechanical warfare weapon, right? Issei, I'm sorry, but it's a military secret. Henry, wow, he flies even faster than Windsor. Issei, Windsor? Henry, my flying dragon lost to you and died honorably on the battlefield. Issei, you had respect for your partner, right? Henry, yes, he was an irreplaceable friend to me. He was still alive when we fell. I didn't freeze to death thanks to him. Louise, I'm sorry. Henry, I don't know what you have to apologize for, kill or be killed, that's what it is. Issei, you're right, but fighting to the death just for nobility or things like that isn't worth it. Henry, so why do you fight? Issei, I fight to protect the people I love and the people important to me, that's why I fight. Henry, to protect the beings you love? So you do it for them, right? Issei, yes, but not only for them, there are also more important people like my friends from the academy in addition to Siesta the princess. Louise, don't worry about Henry, he's not of noble blood, that's why he doesn't understand the importance of reputation and honor. Issei, what's the importance? They are just words that really don't prove anything. What's the point of being considered noble if to do so you have to betray your friends and kill innocent people? Henry, you're right, I would like to live that way of fighting, protecting something I love, knowing what it feels like to live only for love and not like the nobles who are capable of abandoning their loved ones just for reputation. Louise, that girl with your pendant, did you also have to abandon her? Henry, did you see the pendant? Indeed, when I joined the army, I had to cancel my wedding to my fiancée. Issei, and why? Henry, this time I was lucky to survive, but if this war could lead to me dying one of these days if I can't come back alive, isn't it a better option to end the engagement? Issei, what nonsense are you talking about? Henry, what are you saying? Issei, only an idiot would die and leave his fiancée for a simple title. Henry, bastard son of a hitch. At that, Henry pushes Issei to the ground and he falls. Then Henry hits Issei with a kick to the stomach. Issei, bastard, you want to die so much. At that, Issei gets up and punches Henry in the mouth, which causes him to fall. Then Issei grabs him by the collar of his shirt and hits him again in the nose. Issei, Henry, leaving aside the nobility thing, you're human, right? You're a boy, right? Issei, the only thing you should be thinking about is that no matter what happens, what you want most in this world is to return to this side of her, right? Issei, talking about dying all the time, only an idiot would believe it's a good thing. Henry, but... Louise, as a noble you go to the battlefield prepared to face death, but it's strange to talk so much about dying when you're so young. One should think about death when it's right in front of them, right? Louise, until that happens, one must hold on to life as much as possible. Issei, well said, Louise. Louise, Henry, you have to live to get back to her to be able to marry her. Henry, get married. Louise, even if you canceled the engagement, she must still be waiting for you to come home. Meanwhile, far away, a shot can be heard. These were Albion troops searching for the metal dragon and its rider. After the shot, they see that what runs away was a white rabbit. Unknown, a rabbit? Returning with Issei and the others. Rasweiss, was that a shot? Louise, the enemy. Henry, they've come to get me, what am I saying? They've come to get you. In that we can see how the Albion search party passes in front of where they were. In that Henry calls them. Henry, hey. Upon seeing him and not recognizing him, the search group points their firearms at him. Unknown, who are you? Henry, don't shoot. I'm one of you. Unknown, who the buck are you? Henry, I am an air warrior from Albion, a dragon knight. After engaging in combat with the enemy I landed here. Meanwhile, Issei and the girls watched all this, hidden behind some trees, watching Henry reunite with his family. Unknown, hey! So you're safe and sound, and where's the enemy? Henry, they must have landed on the other side of the mountain. Unknown, to the other side? That'll be a problem. Okay. Let's go. Louise, in the end we were saved thanks to him. Never owing any favor is just something for the nobles. Upon hearing that, Issei lightly hits Louise on the head, but suddenly they hear someone calling them, and see a dragon flying above them. Unknown, you are the enemy, prepare for battle. Unknown, fire at will. At that Issei runs out of the place with the girls. Issei, how can you be so stupid? Then they see that the person calling them was Julio's, who lands a few meters ahead. July Tada? Issei, no more nonsense and get us out of here now. At that Issei makes Louise and Rasweiss get on the dragon. Issei, go, I'll give you time. Louise, but Issei. Issei, don't worry, I'll catch up with you later. At that, Julio makes the dragon take flight and begins to move away while Issei, seeing that the Albion soldiers were approaching, activates the booster gear and charges 4 increases. Issei, boost, 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 dragon shot. At that, Issei shoots the trees that fall in front of the Albion soldiers, which causes them to retreat and be covered by the snow that the trees had on top of them. Issei, seeing that they were no longer a problem, takes out his dragon wings and flies quickly to where the girls were with Julio. Louise, thanks Julio, but how did you know where we were? Julio, Anise asked me to find them, and ultimately my mission here is to help the princess no matter what, right? Time jump. Now we see how Issei, Louise and Rosweiss were in front of the princess, already returning from her mission. The princess, upon seeing Louise, runs to hug her. Henrietta, Louise, 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 Louise. After hugging her, he goes to where Issei is and gives him a hug too. Henrietta, Issei, you're right? Issei, if you don't worry, Henrietta-chan. After they separate, Louise approaches where the princess was and kneels before her. Louise, your majesty, I apologize for failing my mission. Henrietta, Louise, the enemy has handed over South Gotha. Our army took the city with little effort. You have nothing to worry about. Louise, not at all. I deserve a punishment. I ask that you send me on the next mission, no matter how dangerous it may be for us nobles. It is our duty to serve His Majesty. Issei, upon hearing how Louise was behaving, approaches her and hits her on the head. Issei, idiot, don't say so much nonsense. Louise, Issei, don't get involved, this is for nobles. Issei, Louise, enough with the nobility thing. You care so much about your reputation that you would be capable of giving your own life just for it, and leaving me alone. Louise, upon hearing this, becomes sad because she was letting her pride get the better of her and didn't realize that she was taking away one of the people she loves the most. Louise, I'm sorry. Henrietta, Louise, don't worry, you won't be punished. I think Issei-sen will take care of that later. At that, Louise just looks at Issei and sees how a glimmer of evil appears in his eyes, which causes Louise to get scared about what would happen to her later because of how she had been acting regarding her pride.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.